Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the New England Melee Podcast. I'm Glock.
I'm Electroman, but please just call me Gent.
Yeah, please. He needs to change his tag. So we need people to start just calling him Gent. We gotta abolish Electro Man. Uh,
Okay, chill. Okay.
and we are coming at you today with the first half of this New England Melee Podcast episode. You're gonna notice that our outfits are probably gonna change. Maybe the lighting's gonna change. Because we're recording this piecemeal because we have a lot we want to do and we don't have 2.5 hours or whatever to do all of it at once. So we wanted to record the first half of this podcast episode. We like to do one of these per season because we like to get our thoughts out there on the season as a whole. The ranking period between October and April, that winter ranking period, has come to an end. Um, and we wanted to get our thoughts out there and encourage some discussion on our upcoming rankings, because ranking season always drives people into a frenzy. It's, one of those things that just makes people rife for discussion and debate and all that stuff. And I know that me and Gent probably have some disagreements this time around because this season was a bloodbath. We were just talking about this before we started recording, that this season as a whole was a total bloodbath. And while as always, there's kind of these like tiers of players, I think the bottom half of the PR is more contentious than ever. And it wouldn't shock me at all if like I have somebody at 10 and you're like, they're my honorable mention. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
season's just been a razor's edge. So we wanted to record at least the first half of this podcast, which is our PR ballots. Again, neither of us are official balloteers for New England. I have a ballot for New Hampshire. Do you have a ballot for Mass? Are you on the Mass
No,
PR
I
team?
don't. But I can help. I helped with the stats of data and stuff.
So both of us, we have no skin in this game whatsoever. We're not New England balloteers. These are not official ballots by any means. So if you vehemently disagree with us, that's okay. The reason that we want to put this out there is just to encourage the open discussion of these things. Oftentimes, ranking is held as one of those like hush secrets, or like people try not to talk about it too much or not to put too much weight into it. But we both are firm believers that people are going to talk about it, and we might as well have it be like open discussions. And
Exactly.
generally speaking, Gent and I are pretty knowledgeable on the happenings of the scene. Um, and we're pretty knowledgeable when it comes to making PR ballots. I will say from the jump that, as I'm not an official balloteer, I didn't peruse over the data for like hours and hours and hours because I know that my vote doesn't actually count for anything. It's more just for discussion. So again, if I have somebody at 10 and you're like, I have incontrovertible evidence that you are wrong, then that's fine. Right? I can live with that. I can live with being wrong. It's totally fine. And the fact that this podcast might make you go out of your way to try and prove me wrong means that we're winning. It means that we're succeeding in what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Anything you
One
want to
thing.
say about the season as a whole? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, yeah, on that last point, I totally agree. Like at the end of the day, we aren't balloters, we're not panelists, and so like I would fully expect that most people like the panelists need to be spending far more time than Nick and I do on this. Like for sure, I would expect that. And not to say that we think that it's going to be that we've put no time into it, but that's just kind of the nature of these things. And also, I'll say I think one of the really cool parts about the reason why I think we have a podcast in general, and we talk about this stuff, is that like New England is just so uniquely good or like a uniquely good spot for this kind of discussion. We have so many players within close tiers to each other. So many players that like their names just kind of get out there because they're doing well in New England somehow, some way, whether it be our mid tiers or whatever the case may be. And so I think it just kind of happens that in New England, these kinds of discussions just kind of arise naturally, like Nick said, and we just want to be the arbiter, I suppose, of no, just kidding, not the actual arbiter, but we want to bring that discussion to the table and have hope people have fun with it. So don't
Yeah,
take us too
and
seriously.
especially my biggest thing with this is that like when this time of season comes around, twice a year, and even in the middle of seasons, like when I see Gent at tournaments, this is like 90% of the time what we're talking about. Is like what's going on this season, where do we have certain people, like who's fragging, who's not, who's going to be like jumping up the rankings, who's going to be falling down the rankings. Like it's just when you're, super geeked about the game, it's just one of those things that you love to talk about. So I think that we should just go ahead and get it started and start doing it.
Let's do it.
So should we? I feel like last time we did this, we started at number one, and I think that makes the most sense because generally the top spots tend to be not the most debated. That said, I do think there is an argument for multiple people at number one, this
Yes,
ranking period.
agreed.
I don't think it is cut and dry. I mean, last time we did this, it was like easy Calvar number one. This time, I think it's a little more hotly contested. I think there's multiple names, two names that you could throw in the conversation for number one. I had Bonfire 10 at number one.
Okay, okay. Do you want me to say my number
Yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. My number one was also
Okay,
bonfires.
okay, we agree. We agree.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Congratulations, congrats, I guess, on our ballots.
Yeah, not really a congrats in order because we don't actually do anything. Main reason I think that this is in debate, it's normally we say who we think number one is. We say, oh, it's Calvar because he won everything and has winning records against everybody. Not really the case with Tori. She has notably, sizably losing records to both David and me. She's 2-7 with David and 2-6 with me, which would normally be unbecoming of number one, especially, I mean, if you just look at the numbers, you're probably thinking, well, if David and Tori are the two in convo for number one, and David does nothing but beat Tori, I mean, he's up 7-2, right? Like that should be pretty instructive that David is the best. And, I think that's a valid argument. I think that you can make that argument. But I think when you look at the overall tournament performances and the quality of wins, beyond just the scope of New England and consistency, which I mean, normally David is like Mr. Consistency, but boy, Tori has just been on another level in terms of her consistency this season. And I think if you ask me, I think that it was really, really close until GamerCon, right? I think that's the big thing, right? Her GamerCon run was absolutely nuts. I can pull up the exact path of wins that she had at that tournament.
Let's do it.
But this was like the feather in the cap for sure, in my view of Tori's PR period. Like I think she was for sure top two, one of the top two, and then at GamerCon, getting there. I'm getting there.
I have it right here.
Oh, I have it. I have it now. She beats Duham and then Deadstock, which is solid. Round one. I think that was both round one pools matches. But Deadstock you're already getting into like pretty high quality players. And then she beats Slox in a tight game 5 set. Beats Epoodle, who's top 50. Correct? He's like 40 something in the world.
That was also that was a legendary set because we've been saying how Epoodle was the king of New England or whatever because he would beat David all the time, but never saw Tori bracket. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
so she beats Epoodle, then she beats Tommy, who, while he won't be on this PR because of a lack of activity, we all know were he active, he would be, let's just call it what it is, a top 3 player in New England, right? He's that good. He's that good. Beats Tommy, loses to Wally, who's former top 30, I think, in the world, or like 30 something, 32, 33.
Beat Zane.
Yeah, I mean, Wally beat Zane, right? So she loses to Wally, and then beats Calvar and beats Wally twice to win the tournament. Like, that is a legendary run. It's a legendary run.
Yeah, it's such a legendary run. The one okay, so this is where like I really gotta like say how serious it is when the small things matter so much when it comes to this situation exactly where it's like these two players, so like both of them have a clear resume for number one, but for me the differences, and this is actually maybe where we can briefly talk about kind of what we value a little bit too, probably is like for me really your runs at regionals, both monthlies and particularly at regionals and big tournaments, are really important to me personally. I also value winning tournaments as well, is a big deal, especially winning monthlies or regionals. This is kind of the player that or that's the player that I want for myself and how I expect other people to do. And so that's kind of what I value. And with Tori, like all of her really good wins, if you just go and like start listing them, and I think the data will be, I think that they'll have the data out soon too, is like you can just see that Tori's big wins, she has more big wins than David at regionals. That's just how it is. David has more big wins at the locals for sure, but like again, if that's kind of how I value it. And the other thing I'll say that's like such a small thing, but it is really important here is the losses. If you actually look at them, they're very like they look similar just from afar, right? Like they're not like, no egregious losses from either of them, but like Tori is not losing. No, okay, and we'll get to some of these players, but like for example, Golden's a little lower on my list than like top 2 or whatever, but like David has losses to Golden and Tori has no loss. Like Tori has 1 loss to Golden, for example. Like I think only 1, and all of her other losses are in this like high echelon of these players that we're going to talk about. So it's like I know it sounds very very small, but when you're looking at the data and you're really trying to scrape and understand who's better, like just these small things make a big difference, you know. So that's kind of why I had Tori number one.
Yeah, I tend to. The last thing I'll say on this is that I tend to similarly on the top end of the PR, the top handful. I also value the bigger tournaments, the regionals, the monthlies, as the most important things. How do you do at those tournaments? And I value specifically for the very top few, I value head to head less because so often at the top of PRs, it becomes almost like a rock, paper, scissors situation, right? Where player X usually beats player Y usually beats player Z, and player Z usually beats player X. Like that happens all the time at the top end of PRs in all kinds of regions. And I think for me personally, it's more instructive to look at like a holistic, how do you do at the big stuff versus what's your head to head spread like? Because for all the players at the top, their head-to-heads are all amazing. It's just a matter of how are you doing against each other, right? And I think
Exactly.
determining your 1 and 2 or your 2 and 3 based on how do you do into each other is just a little reductive. Whereas as we get into the lower spots on the PR, you'll hear me between like 9 and 15. For me, that's like head-to-heads is like the biggest thing, right? Because none of those players are really contending to win regionals or win not majors, win regionals or win monthlies.
Sure.
So it's more about who have you beaten, especially because when you're in that 9 to 15 range, it's more about punching up. So I'm kind of getting out in front of this and saying you're going to hear me later talk a lot about the head to heads and the quality wins. Whereas at the top, I think it's more about consistency and performances at big tournaments. So
I
it's not
agree.
that I'm trying to hold different players to different standards. It's just I think that when you live in different ranges, what gives you points is different for me, I guess, at least a little bit.
Sure. That's fine.
That said, I
I
think
guess that's,
David's number 2, right? Calvar's number
yeah,
2. We can
David,
just go ahead
yeah,
and
David number two. I think, yeah, I mean, it's just like, what's to say about this guy? This guy's just been such a He's been king of New England multiple times. He's been like he dropped off for a little bit, then came back, became the king of New England again. Just is our crowning jewel of New England, has been for a while now. And I don't think that number obviously, you know, if he's listening to this, I'm sure he's thinking about it and he's like, man, like I absolutely should be number one or whatever. But it's no offense to be number two. Again, Tori's like no slap. Tori's also another top 100 player. So it's not you're losing to like a clear peer of yours, you know, however you might see the head to head or whatever. So yeah, I mean, to me, David's just he's awesome. He also just he runs Fotai every week. I really appreciate that. He brings all the CRTs. That's also very goated of him to do. Not an easy thing to do while also competing. So love the guy. Hate losing to him, but I do love the guy.
yeah. I mean, I feel the same. It's just a couple of the big tournaments he didn't quite his his performance didn't quite match up to Tori's, and that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But he's number 2. I think over the last 3 years or 4 years, however you want to look at it, like in the last solid time period, I think they're pretty clearly the two that are consistently above everybody. While Tori, she's dropped, she's been 5th or 4th or whatever on certain PRs. David's pretty much always been top 3. But I think over that big span, they're pretty clearly our two most consistently great players. And I think this PR having them as 1 and 2 makes sense. Because you'll see players like Tommy or like, a Coffee who we know is top 100 caliber. Like they might challenge those spots on the PR in upcoming seasons. Tommy is number 2 on the current PR, right? But it's one of those
Three.
things.
But
Oh,
yeah,
3. Sorry, Nariel's 2. But again, that's another example of like somebody, not David or Tori. But so while other people might come and go in those spots and contend for those second or third spots, I think David and Tori pretty clearly the two most consistently great players over the last 4 or 5 years, and they deserve it. So, you
absolutely.
want to go ahead with your number 3?
Yes. So, in my opinion, it was close for a little bit, but I think like to me, it's not very close anymore. Which is both. It's a double-edged sword because of this tier of players. Because I love so many of these players. But my number three is going to go to Coffee. So Coffee, Peach player, obviously top 100 Peach player. I believe I want to say 81, right around the Tory David range. Which is really funny how we picked up a player and they're not really that different from Tori or David in terms of what they can do in their resumes. So Coffee's amazing. He obviously moved to right here in Boston in my state of Massachusetts. It's really cool to see. And one of the great things I loved about him originally, because when he first came, I was like, I don't know how quick I'm going to become a fan of Coffee. I have to kind of. He was playing Tori at Alston All Stars, and I was like, I don't know, like Tori is my homie. Like I'm going to root for Tori. It might take me a while to be a fan of Coffee, but I have to say, within like a month or two, I just love this guy. He went to all the fests. He doesn't even have a net play set up on like yet. All he does is he goes to fests, He goes to locals, he goes to people's places, he plays. Even for Star League, he had to go to Noah Regex's place to play. Like he's just so committed to being a part of the region and just getting to know a lot of people. And on top of that, he's just amazing, like such a good player. And I play him, and I'm just like, I need to get better against Peach. And because of him, now I practice against Peach like every day. So I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to see what I can do against him. But he's such a beast. He's taken over Massachusetts like full swing outside of when Tory comes, obviously. But in terms of within the state, yeah, Coffee is my number three.
Yeah. I also had him at number 3. I kind of have like a personal, not like history or whatever, but he used to come up to NGP just every now and then, like when he was visiting or whatever. He was very in and out of Mass, so he'd come to like one NGP every month or two before he moved for real. And I played him at one of those, and I knew that he was really good. Like he was, given the second seed or the first seed or something at the tournament. And we played in winners, and I 3-0'd him, and it was clear like he had no idea what Game of Watch did. And then in our loser set, we played in losers finals, and he like wrecked me. Like it was like an instant turnaround. I got 3-0'd. And that was the last time I played him until this ranking period. We played a handful of times, and he wrecked me each time we played this ranking period too. Like he is no joke. I think we were 3-0 in sets. He put me in the ground a couple times. Just no secret how good he is. He's top 100, right? He should be very near the top of our PR. I agree with you that it was close, and it was one of those awkward situations where everybody knew how good he was, but the actual data didn't really reflect it, mostly because he didn't have many tournaments, and the ones he had were locals. So it was like, yeah, his head-to-heads are decent, but he wasn't beating Tory at the locals. He was down like 0-6 or something at one point at the locals. And he wasn't really racking up wins, right? He was beating the good players in Mass, but he wasn't getting bites at the apple against, the Calvars of the world. He wasn't going to monthlies and proving it on like the bigger scale.
Yeah.
And he didn't, not to say that he had a handful of monthlies that were amazing, but it was just like, he was just at that weird, awkward point of data where it was like, yeah, we all know that he's that good, but how high can you really rank him? But it flushed out. He got more data on his resume. He went to more tournaments. He got some more good results, and it shook out, in my opinion, the way it should. Like, I think if you ask me just on a holistic level, who are the 3 best in New England, he's my number 3. I think he's pretty clearly the 3rd best player, and I'm glad that the data bore it out. I totally concur. That said, I thought it was close between him and me, and now it's no longer, but I think that I'm a clear number 4. I have myself at 4. Am I tripping or no, Gent?
Okay, my number 4 is Glock in my two. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I have to talk first because I'm not gonna let you just talk about yourself.
What? Why not?
No, I gotta lay it on you, and then you can maybe say whatever you need to say. But yeah, I do think it was close for sure, and for all the reasons that you said. Like, it's just it really we really just needed Coffee to go to stuff and show us more because he wasn't super active. But even still, like your data is just this season's just been awesome, and I have to say I have a personal both like love and hate for your data because I'm just like, man, I wish that I could be 6-2 against Tory, but I'm just not yet. You know what I mean? Or like I wish I could be, doing what I forget what other. Oh yeah, like you have like wins on Nerio, and I haven't beaten Nerio yet. You haven't done it with Fox, but still, like there's some jealousy there for sure. But still, it's all love at the end of the day, and I think that you've just I feel like it happens every. I said this literally last time. It's like you go back and forth, and I think that this is also part of just like the school stuff and your job, and also like what you
It's
do over
just
the
summer.
summer.
It's just summer. In the
You
summer, I
know,
just don't want to be playing melee. The summer rankings, I'm always
that's
lower
fair.
because I go to less tournaments. I'm doing shit outside. I just, it's the way it
Yeah,
is.
that's true.
Winter, when I can't go outside and do shit, I'm playing melee. I'm try harding. I'm getting top 5. Otherwise,
Hell,
I'm coasting to 8th or ninth. That's just the way I operate.
even still though, this is your highest ranking yet.
Yeah.
Like it's which is kind of wild. And one thing, people I think have now see it as a mainstay, your Fox. But like I have a personal, I think as you've gone through your journey with Fox, I've like also kind of followed it from just spectator view. Like seeing initially when you picked up Fox, like or to obviously you played Fox for a while, but to play him a little more seriously, and I could see like the struggles at first to you like literally learning the Fox stuff and implementing it. We play a lot, obviously, too, so being able to see it in real time in our sets against people like Tori, for example, who like other Foxes wish they could beat her that much. So I think it's really cool that you've picked up a Fox. It's just clear that you've kind of positioned yourself in a really good way when you go to tournaments now. You're not just obviously your Game Watch is a beast, but like now you're really becoming the Armada like esque of like, okay, you can get past my Game Watch, but like now you got to play my Fox, and that's some serious business. So congratulations to you. For me, I would put you at 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was pretty clear number 4. Head to heads were really good. 6-2 on Tori is good as gold. She's number 1, so that helps a lot. I think the only thing that I'll say that I think is cool, and I hope that it shakes out and that I get 4th. I think it's pretty clear. I hope the data bears that out. I hope the panelists agree. This is the most dual main that it's ever been. I played so much Foxes, right? Like so many of my good wins. All of my Tori wins were Fox for at least 4 games. We had one game 5 set where I played Game & Watch for a game and won. But every Tori win I've gone either all Fox or almost all Fox. My win on you was with Fox. I have one of my David wins is with Fox. All 4 my 4-0 on Golden, those are all solo Fox. Ember, yeah, my 2-1 on Ember is all Fox. So like I did get a bunch of wins with Game & Watch. The Slox win, the Aerial win, Project wins. Whatever it may be. I did get a lot of wins with Game & Watch, Regex as well. I go Game & Watch for, but this is definitely the most dual main it's ever been, and it's the only time that it's felt like. I guess in seasons past, it felt like the Fox was just like a bonus for when there were certain people that were pissing me off or like certain matchups that I really hated. But now it feels like I could not be close to this high without Fox, which is pretty cool. It's cool to be like a real dual main and trust it, at least for the most part, which is pretty sweet. So I'm happy it worked out.
Even despite everything, I'm still not the best Fox in New England.
No, I can't let that happen. I can't let that. Yeah, I think that's the other thing is I think that if you make this PR, like if you're, whoever makes the graphic, I think there's an argument that I should be listed as Fox and not Game & Watch. I think that the wins that carried my resume, the Tori wins mostly, but also like getting the Golden head-to-heads, the Ember head-to-head, the wins, like we were just saying. I think there's a strong, like if you're just making the graphic, I'll go down as Game & Watch because people still just act like I'm a Game & Watch main. But I think that you can make a really strong argument that the bulk of my resume and the bulk of the quality wins were with Fox. Like when I went on that huge losers run at Mass Madness to start the ranking period, it was through Green Stash was Game & Watch. But then I beat you, I beat Evening Star, and I beat Tori back to back to back with all Fox. So half of that losers run before I went on to beat an Aerial, over half of that losers run was with Fox, and the loss that put me in losers early was with Game & Watch.
If you had to list yourself, like if you had to pick, because for example, the example I give is on Smashwiki or Liquipedia or whatever, where the characters show up next to your name.
I'm still Game & Watch.
You would have Game & Watch first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially because if I go out of region, it's going to be Game & Watch. You know what I mean? Like if I go to a major, I'm playing Game & Watch. It just is what it is, unless I play a Sheik. Yeah. But it's so it's cool. I don't want to talk about myself too much or like make it seem like I'm being big headed, but I think this was a cool ranking period for me. I'm glad it worked out well. So this is where I think we get into the disagreement zone, probably, right? Top 4, I think, was fairly clear. I have a feeling that my 5 and your 5 might be different because I think I might have a bit of a hot take with my 5.
Okay, interesting. Well, I guess then I might as well. I feel like I don't have a hot take. So
okay.
I feel like I should go first.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't think it's a hot take, but I could maybe be convinced today. We'll see. My number 5 has to go to my mortal enemy, Noah Reginald Excalibur, regular expression, Regex, the Marth player from Massachusetts. I don't think it's a hot take. I guess I will try and give I present my argument,
For the record, I also don't think this is a hot take. I think this is conventional wisdom. I think that I think Regex at 5 is totally defensible, and I don't have Regex at 5.
Okay. Really
so I want to hear your reasoning.
Yeah. So it's just like, man, first of all, the crowning jewel of Noah's or Regex's resume this season was winning Afterburner, okay? And that's kind of been a forgotten event throughout the season because it happened literally the weekend after the season began. It was that weekend. And it was funny because people were saying, man, he's going to be like, somehow he's going to destroy, because he went to Europe and he beat all the European players, and he went to Afterburner and won over Ober, and it was like, man, I guess this guy's not even the best player in his state, and he's beating all of Europe. Because that's what it was, because the season had just ended, and I had been ranked higher than him. But like, so that's how early it was in the season. So I think it's been forgotten a little bit because it wasn't a big tournament. It only had like, I think 35 people. but it had a lot of great names there. And he just we went out of region and he won a big ass tournament, got a trophy for it and everything. That's like his crowning jewel in my opinion. He went to Europe as well, and he had his wins on. Let me just pull up the stats. I want to make sure I'm not getting it wrong. Jade, Irfan, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Astar, which are both, I think all three of those players are like top 100 players. They've been on the ballot plenty of times. Maybe one of them has been top 100. I don't recall for sure, but they're all really great European players.
I'm going to
And
jump in. I don't think any of them have been top 100, but I know Irfan at Supernova last year got like 17th or
okay,
25th.
yeah,
Like he
yeah,
fragged at that tournament.
yeah. So really good players. It was just like it was just really funny to see like just a random Massachusetts player wrecking Europe. That was really cool. And then outside of that, like this guy just wins so much. This guy winning is part of his like it's his routine. Every week he's going to three weeklies. He's going to Sconefest, One Up, and NGP, and he's winning sometimes all three. So much when either Tori or myself aren't there or Coffee. Uh, he's just winning so much. His records are just impeccable. He has like nearly no, he's going to so many tournaments. Like he's going to he went to 47 tournaments this season, and he doesn't have like any bad. His worst loss is like Cola maybe, like I guess. And Cola's still like a really good Fox player. And that's he's just destroying so many different players. He has the top 100 wins at Genesis, which he got on Malachi. He also beat Faith at that tournament, I think, or maybe it was a different tournament. So this guy's also on pace for top 100 in my opinion. I've talked to Dark Genix a little bit too, and he thinks so as well. Like this, Noah's just like he's putting in the work. I hate to see him. Sometimes I'm like, man, Marth, man, it's my crusade against Marth, and he is my mortal enemy. But still, I gotta show some love to him. So he's my number five. In my opinion, conventional. I don't think it's a hot take.
No.
I'm very curious to hear what your argument is here.
Yeah, I have Regex at 6 for full disclosure. I have
Okay.
him one spot lower, mostly because and this I am totally open to people thinking that this is a bad way to interpret the data and that this isn't how PR should be made because every panelist operates differently. And I'm not actually a panelist, but everybody who fills out a ballot operates differently. And I personally will always weigh in region more than out. Not to say the out of region stuff doesn't matter. Obviously, it's a shitload of amazing wins out of region, multiple top 100 wins in Europe, in the Midwest, in like MDVA, whatever it is. He has a shitload of insane out of region wins, but I weigh in region as just a little bit more important,
Okay.
especially in region monthlies and bigger tournaments where I think Ember was better. So I have
Wow.
Ember at 5. I have Ember in my 5 spot personally, specifically because at the end of the season, the last month or so at regionals, she just went berserk and like reminded everybody that she's that good and that she arguably better than even some people above her. She hangs with David and Tori, maybe the best of anybody in New England in terms of matching up into both of those players. Because I do really well into Tori, but I do terribly into David. Right? There are other
Mhm.
people who do well into David, but match up poorly into Tori. I think
Yeah.
across both of you had to pick one player outside of the top two to match into the top two. I think it might be Ember. And the head-to-heads have proven that. She had a tied head-to-head with Tori 2-2, and she had a losing head-to-head with David, but beat him 3 times, and they were all at monthlies or regionals, um, which is pretty nuts. Um,
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
I just thought that her record at monthlies and her really dominance in region, especially towards the back half of the season, was enough to just jump her up. Like I think if I had made my ballot a month ago or 45 days ago, I might have had her at like 9. But she just went on a rampage the last month or so, and in my opinion, reaffirmed why she has been that high in the past. I mean, she's a top 5 mainstay at this point. She has been for basically 2 years. And
Yeah.
I think it's for good reason. I think that she fragged out. And again, I always on regional rankings, I will always weigh in region as a little bit more important than out. I think the way that
So
you handle yourself at big tournaments in New England should determine where you're ranked in New England. And I think that it is. I don't think it's wrong or inexcusable if let's say by the end of the year Regex is a top 100 player. I don't think that it would be, a poor reflection of the region if Regex is top 100, but there's somebody ranked above him who isn't. I think that's just the
no.
nature of regional rankings, right? And I think this
Yeah.
is one of those instances where I do think that if you're looking at, if you're looking at Melee from up here, from 10,000 feet, and you say Regex is better because of all these great results he has, out specifically all these great wins on great players, I think that's valid. But I think if I'm looking at it from 1,000 feet just in New England, I like Ember's resume just a little bit more. But that's just me. That's just the way that I weigh the data. Either way, I have Ember at 5 and Regex at 6. That's my, and Regex, totally agree with your analysis. I mean, the lack of bad losses is crazy. And I think also really meaningful for him too, because historically that's not necessarily been like a bugaboo, but it's always kind of been a hangup with Regex. Is like he would have tournaments where he drops a couple to some players that you wouldn't expect. Right? But I think overall, like over the entire period, his worst loss is Saucy Mane, who, spoiler alert, I have on my ballot. Like I have him later, I have him lower down on the PR. So I don't think he's really taken any losses to non-caliber PR players, which in seasons past has not really ever been the case for him, which is pretty sick. To see somebody overcoming, not like overcoming, but to see somebody patching up something that in the past has been a problem, right? The errant tournament every now and then. Like I remember last PR period, he had a tournament where he lost to like Kraft and Bonk, and like kind of flamed out of a tournament where he was a high seed, and like that just those kind of performances were absent from his resume this period, which is awesome. So I have Regex at 6. I just had Ember one spot above. I think it's pretty much as close as can be. But that's how I had it. Who did you have Ember at 6 or lower?
So, so one thing I'll say real quick on the panel stuff, I fully agree. Like at the end of the day, this is what panel rankings are for, is like you have a panel because you're going to bring different people, different ideologies from across the region. And I think this region or this season, Owen is doing something different where they're bringing on like one rep from every state, which is, I think, really, really cool. So that's already 6 different people from different states. And then you got, of course, Owen themselves. I think Dark Genix is helping, and like Huff as well, Benji. So like, I think that this is just what a panel is going to be. It's going to be a different opinions from different parts of the region. Different people are going to value different things. At the end of the day, the average should be what on average. This is like, it shows up. It shows what the region on average thinks and what like the culmination of different opinions, like where it comes to. So totally on the same page for sure. Now I actually had Ember at number 7 personally. So I'll talk. I guess I'll talk about Ember after. I guess I'll talk about Ember after I talk about number 6. Which for number 6, I actually had myself.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I had you at 7, right below Ember.
Okay,
I think that was that cluster of 3. I think was pretty clear. You, Regex, and Ember. It's just a matter of how you ordered it. Yeah, I had you at 7. We mostly agree on the people in this range. Just a matter of difference of opinions. I thought your head-to-heads were really solid. I mean, you dominated me. That helps a lot. Came away with a couple Tory wins. You beat David at a monthly and then never played him again, which is sick. You have the green box on David. That's like, you might be the only person in New England, I think, who has the green box on David. Which is pretty sick. 1-0. And it was at a monthly, right? It was grands or winners finals at a monthly?
It was, I think, winners semis of Fotai.
The Big Foe, yeah.
Big Foe 4 or something. Yeah, Big Foe 4.
So it was winner semis at a monthly, and then, you just ducked it and you didn't have to play him again, which is sick. You got the 1-0 on David. That's a perfect record.
Look, one thing I'll say about that is I would love, give me David all day.
I'm
gonna watch this. I'm gonna say it, dude. I want to play you so bad because I feel so much better against David than Tori. 100%. You know what I mean? So I'll take David all day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I thought you had a really good season. I think kind of similar. I think in the past you had that similar thing I was talking about with Noah, where there was the errant tournament every now and then, specifically at bigger tournaments. Like you would have a monthly or a regional where it was like, wow, Gent got 13th. Like, why? What's up with that? And there was a lot less of that. Not to say that you didn't have any bad performances. I think that you were less consistent than Regex, who we were just talking about. And obviously didn't have the out of region stuff that he had going on, but your head-to-heads are clean. You actually had a winning head-to-head on Regex despite playing him like 20 times, which is pretty sweet. Like I said, you dominated me, and you had just a handful of monthlies. Like you had 3 or 4 monthlies where it was like, that is what he needs to be doing all the time. And it was like, if he did that at every monthly, he'd be in that, 4 or 5 area. I think that you've shown that you can do it. I think you've shown it with your head-to-heads. I think, once you patch up some of the weak matchups and like bad pulls and stuff like that to some people lower on the PR, then I think that you're going to be in really, really good shape.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think, again, I have you at 7.
No,
I have you at 7. Like I shouldn't say like you'll be in really good shape. Like obviously you already are, but so I have you going from 7th to 7th on this PR. That's where I had.
Yeah, not too different. Yeah, I think the one thing with Ember, the reason why I guess I'm a little lower than you, perhaps. We'll see how the data bores out. I mean, for me, it's just like she did have a really good end of the season, and like the wins are incredible. That's what puts her this high. I agree. She would have been like 10th or something before some of those results. But I think that it's just I don't know. When you get again, this is a tier of players, and I think that you need to. The other thing is that like Noah and I entered so many events. We entered like double the events that she did, and like I think the results show that. Like if you look at the records, like we both of us have more wins or more good wins than Ember, and I think that like when it's just that close, I guess for me, like I do kind of that's the other thing. I guess attendance wasn't really mentioned because the players so far it really hasn't mattered, but like I do value attendance if it's close. If it is close, like, are you
Mm-hmm.
going to tournaments and putting yourself out there? And I think that Ember didn't do that as much. I mean, it's probably about average for her to go to 15 events, but I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. But it is very close. It's one tier players. I could see it going literally either way. And if you value, for example, if you're thinking about like, okay, who's going to go out of region and do very well, like Noah and Ember would be I would pick them before myself, for example, So, and I probably value the out of region stuff a little. I value it kind of the same, to be honest, but I understand, different panelists are going to value different things. So, at least our top seven is like basically the exact same. It's
Yeah.
those seven players, which
Yeah,
is
I think we just have some slight ideology differences, and that's, it is what it is. That's the nature of rankings. But I think that, it's I think the top seven's fairly clear, at least the players. It's just a matter of the order. And I'll call it what it is. I probably have some New Hampshire bias too. Like, of course, I want to prop Ember up in my head. It's good that I'm not an actual panelist because then I could be accused of some shady practices. There's probably just part of me that's like that knows how nasty Ember is and is also super homies with Ember and naturally wants to prop her up. Like that just is what it is. Right? That
yeah, yeah.
would I want Ember to be top 5 so that New Hampshire has 4 out of the top 5? Of course I would. Right? That would be amazing. But yeah, it is what it is. Eighth. Speaking of New Hampshire bias, I had Golden at eighth. What say you?
Okay, so I had Golden at 9, literally right
Hmm.
after. So eight,
Okay.
I'll explain it. I have a good because I was these next two players I was bouncing between. Uh, 8 for me is Slox. Okay, and it's
Oh.
possible I could be overrating Slox a little bit, but one of the things that like okay, I think one of the things that I with Golden like Golden's records have been somehow even though he's like not he's only one spot higher than he was last season. This is I think a much better season than last season. And so it is surprising to see that he's not going to go like that much higher or whatever. But I think one of my issues with Golden goes into what I value, right? So like let me kind of explain what I mean. So when I said earlier, one of the things I really value is how are you doing at the big tournaments, the monthlies and the regionals. Like one of the things we saw last season, for example, was that Ember was destroying David at Fotai. I think it was like 8-1 at Fotai. But then at every monthly she would lose. So the record didn't look great, but all of David's wins were when it mattered.
Yeah.
And so that's why it didn't really affect him that much that she was like up on him at the time. And this is similar here, where like Golden is really up on David. Like he's destroying David at Fotai, right? But fun fact, he's actually 0-3 at the monthlies and the regionals in New England. He hasn't won a single set when it comes to monthlies or he's only winning at Fotai.
That's
And so
interesting.
yeah, and so that kind of stat when I was looking at data, it screamed to me. I'm like, okay, well, not to say that Jack can't do it. Like he obviously can, but it's just a very similar case to last season where like Ember was destroying David at the weekly. But like, I mean, it is Fotai. Like you have to put some context on it. David's the TO. He's probably drinking a little bit. Like these things all matter when you're looking at the data, whatever the case may be, however much they matter. And it's just like he's going to the monthly and he's not doing that. He's carrying a little bit more. He's probably trying a little harder, whatever the case may be, and he's not losing those sets. So that to me is meaningful enough to start considering, okay, maybe Jack shouldn't be that high. And then probably the nail in the coffin was that, I mean, Slox did win Mass Madness. And like, that was the other thing I valued a lot. I mentioned, you got to win the big tournaments. That's like one of my big values for sure. And so, yeah, it's like, how are you doing at the big tournaments? And are you winning the big tournaments? Jack has a good record on David. It looks good on paper, but you look at it a little deeper, it's not as good as you may think. And then Tony won like a Mass Madness, and it was a great one. It was a
Oh
great run.
yeah, fantastic tournament win. See, this is interesting. I had Slox pretty considerably lower. Not like,
Okay, okay.
off the PR or anything. I had him a few spots lower than this. Um
Fair enough.
largely, I don't want to go too much into Slocks. I want to stay on Golden because I am the
Yeah.
one who just said I had him at 8. I again, the head-to-heads I think overall are great, even if, like you say, they might be a little counterfeited by, if you break it by local versus regional, because he also has a really gaudy, impressive head-to-head with Ember. 6-2 on Ember, 6-2 with anybody above you is, take it from me, I'm 6-2 on Tori, and it carried me to fourth in the region. Like, that's a big deal. 6-2 on anybody above you, and 5 David wins. Again, I know all at locals, but that's just a crazy number. And also ninth at Sunset. Right, we want to talk about, Golden has had his slew of unimpressive monthly results for sure. I mean, he's flamed out of some tournaments in bad ways and taken some bad losses. But it's not to say his resume is bereft of good big performances. His Sunset run was nuts, getting knocked into losers early. Fun fact, I don't know if you know this, the reason he got knocked into losers early was because Squid at that tournament was seeded as if he was playing all Yoshi. So
Oh,
Squid,
that's
so Squid
right.
was a 2 seed in pools instead of a 1 seed. Ended up beating Golden because they thought he was playing all Yoshi. He goes Falco and like destroys Golden or whatever. So Golden gets knocked into losers early, and I want to pull up the exact list. I know some of the people he beat, but I want to have the full weight of it here. At GamerCon, or not GamerCon, at Sunset, his run was through. Hold on. Give me a second.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
He loses to Squid in pools. Then he goes on to beat Future Shock, Mint, Ripple, Arn, Cool Slice, and Abel back to back to back to back to back to get ninth. Only losing to Lewis. So he lost to Lewis and Squid, 2 top 100 Falco players, and just went through a gauntlet of really good players, New England and Ripple, who went on a crazy run that tournament that no one really expected. So Golden, it really impressed me with that tournament, and I think for me, kind of like how you said, the nail in the coffin for Tony above him was Mass Madness. The nail in the coffin for me with Golden is that he has all these great head-to-heads. He has all these great local performances. And Sunset to me was like the banner, like he did it at a regional. He did it
Yeah.
at the biggest tournament of the ranking period. He really put on and got a handful of great wins. It's not like he took down any top 100 players like Regex, or some of the other people higher. But he put it all together at a monthly, which was huge for me. That said, I totally get the Slocks argument. I'll say a little bit on Slocks. I'll talk maybe a little more about him later. The big thing for me, like he was the most inconsistent player on the ballot this period. Full stop. In terms of the variance, the difference between the peaks and the valleys, I think he was one of the hardest people to rank because his high. I mean, I want to say his highs, but it was really Mass Madness, right? That was the feather in the cap for his ranking period. Was incredible run. But the rest of his ranking period was a kind of a mess, with a lot of head scratching losses. Again, a lot of them at smaller tournaments, no huge deal, but he flamed out of a lot of brackets and took some really head scratching losses that made it really hard for me to put him at 8, over somebody like Golden who did it at a couple monthlies and also just had like really, really impressive punching up wins. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about Slocks and where I have him and why I have him there when I get there. But it's going to be a couple spots. He was
No, fair enough.
a tough person to rank for me.
He's tough. He's tough to rank. I mean, I think I could be convinced to lower him. I think it's just like I've always been big on winning a tournament like Mass Madness. I was up on Porp when he won.
Mm-hmm.
I was up on you when you won. Obviously, that was more. I think more people thought about that. I was up on Tommy last year. Like a lot of people had Nariel too, but for me, Tommy was like clearly two. He won 2 Mass Madnesses in a row, and those were like one was incredibly stacked, the other was just like normally stacked. Like to me, it's just when Mass Madness is big. But yes, I agree that there is like I could be convinced to lower him in other areas. Like I understand the idea that he did lose to he has lost to Spades and he doesn't have he has lost to Danny.
His
The
multiple
Ballot.
losses to Danny.
I think this season there was only
Oh,
one.
was it only
Actually,
one? Okay, I'm mistaken.
one.
I'm
I
mistaken.
think it was there was 2 at the tail end of last season, which was like I think resulted in him getting like 12th or whatever on the PR. That hurt him a lot. And
Yeah.
then there was only one this season. So they're actually even this season. Believe it or not,
Okay.
despite the rhetoric, they are
Okay.
actually
Okay.
even.
He
Um,
also just he had weird run-ins. I guess I'll just do the Slux stuff now. And then I won't talk about him much later. He just had some weird run-ins at monthlies too, where like Slugs minus the weird characters is so good. But it felt like so often his bugaboo was like he lost to Danny here, he lost to Spades there. At Sunset, he lost to me and to
Seven.
Sebis, who plays Dr. Mario. Like it just seems like the weird characters, maybe they're in his head a little bit, maybe he gets a little
Okay.
tilted, and by maybe I mean definitely. Um,
Definitely.
and it really hurt him. Like I think that he was really close to having a pretty stellar season. I guess my word of wisdom would be to stay in winners because then the odds of you running into those people is a lot lower. Again, you'll still run into him. He ran into me at Sunset in winners, but like Mass Madness, he stayed in winners and he only had to play, Project and Ember and somebody else. Like a very standard, who you would
Yeah.
expect in the top bracket of those tournaments. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess I don't know. I just think he was so hard to rank for me.
It's
Uh,
hard to rank. Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
there's an argument for him at like 7, 8, and I think there's an argument for him at like 12, 13. If you want to, be a pessimist, which is wild. Definitely the biggest variance between peaks and valleys. So I had him a little bit lower.
All right.
Who was in
Who
your
was your?
9 spot? Oh, you want to ask
Oh,
me?
I had Golden at 9.
Oh, that's right. That's right. My 9, I
Oh,
had Green Stash, actually. I had Green Stash pretty high this time around. I was really, really impressed with Green Stash's season. I thought that I've always said is kind of like an inevitability. He's going to go to a really big handful of tournaments. He's going to get a handful of wins on really high level players. It's for me, or for Green Stash, I feel like a lot of the time it's less of like, I don't know. He just feels like he has less variance. Like you kind of know what you're getting with Green Stash, and it's always really consistent. And I think part of that's influenced by the way he plays too. Like you kind of just he's ticking like a clock. Like he is what he is. Not you're not gonna get like the super high peaks and super low valleys with him. He's very consistent. And this season, it just felt like he put together a really solid slew of wins. I mean, he had winning records on Ember and me, which is pretty nuts, right? Or I think on Ember. Am I correct on that? I want to double check
Ember.
that. I want to double check that before
Let
I'm
me
wrong.
see. He didn't actually play Ember
Oh,
this
he
season.
didn't play Ember. Okay, who am I thinking of? I think I might be thinking of Saucy Man had the winning record on
And
Ember.
had
I
the
think I
one
got
win.
me. I have my Luigi's confused. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
But he also had a winning record on me, which is that's also probably part of my bias here. That's part of when you're a balloteer or when you are filling out a ballot. There's always going to be some skew where you're like, damn, they're nasty because they beat me a lot, or like
Oh,
they
for
had a
sure.
winning record on me, and I'm always going to weigh that as meaning a lot. But I just thought Devin was super consistent this period. I think he put together a really solid list of wins. He didn't do a ton of punching up, but he got a really good list of wins, and he was just always in it at every tournament. Like, was there like any crazy standout performances? No, but I feel like he's right around that 9, 10, 11 range. I thought he had a really, really good season.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get to Devin a little later for me, but we'll see. We'll see. I think the thing about Devin is I actually think that if you asked him, he'd probably tell you that his season wasn't very good, but his season was actually pretty good. I think it's just like I just it's just the problem is that when you get into this tier, like a lot of the players are very similar. Like you need to have some standout performances, something that's happening. And like unfortunately, when you look at his resume, it's just a very like you could take out the name Green Stash, and I would just think, okay, this is just like a solid New England PR, like maybe lower half player. I
Yeah.
wouldn't really think anything of it, you know. And so it's just like I don't know. In this tier for me, like I need to look at something that's going to make you special. Are you winning? Do you have a random top 100 win? You know, do you have a random monthly win against against other New England PR players, et cetera, et cetera? You know, and it's just like he doesn't really have a lot of those. Unfortunately, he does have the winning record on you, which is neat for sure. But it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's not enough for me personally, but still, like he's an awesome player. I love Devin to death. It's and I think he told me that he was just like really busy this season. He'll be back though. I mean, he already just to say a little bit, the season has begun for summer, and he 3-0'd Noah, which he hadn't beaten in like a year. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? At NGP, destroyed him. Go watch that set if you haven't seen it. So he's already like grinding. Rat Monster is his hero. You know, he knows what he's doing. You know, he'll be back for me personally, but I understand also having him high depends on how you value. Uh, so yeah, 9 was my obviously golden. I guess I'll get to 10, which is really funny that you said Green Stash because my 10 is actually the one and only the hero of Full House, Benjamin
Ooh,
Sauceman.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So the thing about Ben is this guy has if you're looking for standout performances, stuff that you look at the resume and it just like sticks out like a not a sore thumb, but actually like a really cool thumb, you know, like it has like a really cool whatever. Is like first of all, he has a winning record on myself, which you just said that, you know, sometimes we value players that like do good against ourselves, which is definitely true for sure. But like just he has a winning record on me, which is very similar to Devin for sure.
Yeah.
But some other things about him is he has a winning record on Ember, which is the one that we were confused about where that was coming from. He's 1-0 on Ember, which is huge. So he has a winning record on two like top 7 players, which or top 8 players, however you want to group it, whatever. And then outside of that, he has a top 100. He has a former top 100 win on Dr. Lobster, which is wild. That like no one else in this tier has anything like that. Well, actually, we'll get to some other players that might. He has
I'm
the
jumping in. I'm jumping in. This win is counterfeit to me. Taylor hadn't played in over a year. This win is counterfeit.
look, man.
Not to say it's not a good win. No offense to Ben. I know he was super stoked to beat Doc Lob because like we all know how good Taylor used to be. But as somebody who's pretty close to Taylor, who knows him pretty well, that I'm just saying for me that win
Okay,
didn't matter
okay, but
basically at all. It was
let me
like
throw,
it was like legit nothing on his resume for me. Like almost
no.
meant nothing to me.
Oh, okay, wait.
Sorry,
Missing
Ben.
nothing is wild.
Sorry,
No
Ben.
way.
Almost
Okay,
nothing. It meant almost
okay,
nothing to me.
okay. Even if you don't want to value that, whatever. He still has the win on Dial M,
Yeah,
which
that's
once
a big
again,
one.
that's the pre. That was the. It happened at the pre-local to Genesis. He beat Dial M. Like, and also he. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but he also beat JJM as well. And
Yeah.
like, I understand JJM is not like the most active player in the world. Still though, like
Yeah.
these are when you combine them all in this tier, like it is meaningful enough to me. All these different things. And on top of that, he also went to 40 events. So he's going to double the events that Devin has. And like, let me tell you, look at Ben's losses. This guy does not lose unless it's like somebody that's like really good. He has like 2 bad losses, I think. One is like somebody named I don't know I don't know who the player is, but it's Pony Kisses. I don't know who that player is. I think they're out of region. And like Zaubermaus. That's like the two not great losses. Everything else, and he's going to 40 events. So he's one of our most attended players.
Yeah. The lack of
That's
bad losses given the number of events is impressive. I mean, I think 1-4 on Cool Slice is a pretty not to say Cool Slice isn't good, but he's certainly a tier or two below Ben. And not
sure,
only a losing record, but a solidly losing record there is definitely a blemish. Um,
sure.
yeah, I don't know. I think I totally agree. The high is the win on Dial M. He has the punching up that Devin doesn't. Um, I think they're both right in this range. I think having been that high is it's excusable. I know he goes to a lot of tournaments, but there is always a part of me that is like maybe this is just me who factors this in to like PR conversations, but I am always a little wigged out when there's a player who has a million bites at the apple and fails every time. And like this
Sure.
is no diss to Ben. This is not me trying to be rude to him. He would say it probably even sooner than I would. He plays against the top end of the PR and New Hampshire. He plays against that grouping of players so much and comes away so empty-handed so often. I mean, just
Yeah.
to add up like on David, Coffee, Tori, and Regex combined, he is 2-34. Like that's crazy. And
The record's not
I know that in this lower end of the PR, it's not always about like punching up and who you beat. And I'm not gonna always fault somebody for not having wins on the top, 5 players or whatever. But when you have that many bites at the apple and don't get it done, that to me is always like I'm always looking at that a little bit sideways. You know what I mean? Like you played these players 34 times and only won twice, and both were on Regex, who's the lowest of that group of 4 that I just named. Like David, Tori, and Coffee combined, he's played over 20 times and got no wins. Like that's kind of
true.
nuts to me.
That's true.
That's again, it's no disrespect. It just is what it is, right? But
Fair
that's
enough.
I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. Uh,
No. I think you make a good point. I mean, I will say one thing. I will say is this is how similar these resumes are between all these players. Like Greenstash, Devin also has a losing record on Cool Slice this season,
yeah,
and I think he also like he hasn't played those players a lot. But I don't know if I would expect he also hasn't has he ever no he has beaten Tory, but I don't know if I would expect it to be that. I mean, maybe
I
I would
mean, you
expect it to be
say
better.
that, but like I'm going to be number 4 according to both of our ballots, and he has a winning record on me in
True,
just 3 sets. You know what I
true,
mean? Like
true.
that's a big deal. Um,
Sure. Yeah. Ben does have the winning record on Ember too,
1-0,
So it's
1-0 on Ember, but then like 2-13 against Regex, 0-9 against Tori, 0-7 against Cobb. I don't know. It's kind of again, I'm not saying like that's the whole reason that I have him a little bit lower, but that's just one of those things I look at on head to heads, and I'm like, man, like if you're going to 40 tournaments, you got to do some punching up in region, and he hasn't done a lot of that. He hasn't, not that he hasn't done any, but he hasn't done as much as I would expect from somebody who's going to that many tournaments and getting that many chances to do so, I guess.
Sure.
I will also say on this bottom end of the PR, I should have said this earlier. I basically had no idea what to do with a lot of Connecticut because so many of them, like their resumes are just based on what they did in Connecticut. Like so many of the Connecticut players outside of Connecticut didn't really do that much. Went to a couple, they go to monthlies, but a lot of the time their performance at monthlies is like what you would expect. Like they lose to who they're supposed to lose to and beat who they're supposed to beat. And a lot of the Connecticut people, I kind of just ranked based on the way they do in Connecticut and the little bits of what they showed outside of Connecticut. But there's a lot of people that I just didn't really know what to do with. I say all that to say that I had Nariel at 10 on my ranking.
Interesting. So interesting.
Yeah, I had Nariel at 10. I still think that he's really, really good. I mean, he got 4th at Mass Madness, which is a really big deal. I don't remember who exactly he beat there. I can pull it up. I'll pull it up right now.
He beat me, I think.
You think? You think he beat
no,
you?
I forget which term it was. No, he beat me. Yeah, he beat me at the Mass Madness, and then he beat me at Sunset too. So he has a.
Yeah, he played pretty well at Sunset too. I think he got 17th or 25th or something there. Again, he only had 6 tournaments, so that also made it really hard to rank. Like he hit the minimum for tournaments, which makes it really hard to rank. So at Mass Madness, he beat Mint, Saucy Mane, and you and Q from Connecticut, who is not on the PR, but it's just one of those we kind of have to estimate the quality of the win, right? Similar to like he lost a project. Like, what does that mean? We all kind of just have to collectively guess how good is a Q win, how bad is a project loss, right? But inside of Connecticut, he did really well into Arn. He did really well into a lot of the other Connecticut mainstays, the Brubs and Spades of the world. He did have the 0-1 record with Slox, losing to him at Sunset in losers bracket. Also had 2 wins on Anchor, which is just like a solid out of region, like somebody who I think we can agree is around New England PR level, like would probably be on our PR. So 2 solid wins there. Again, the Connecticut people, specifically Nariel, I had a really, really hard time ranking, but I thought that his 4th at Mass Madness was really, really convincing. And at Sunset, it's not like he, didn't do anything. It's not like he had a terrible regional at Sunset. So while his results were limited, but I still felt that he had a pretty good overall showing. And again, I'm coming out fully in front of this and saying, like, my Connecticut stuff could be way off. Like, I'm sure some Connecticut people are going to listen to this and say, like, you had him over Arn? Like, what data are you looking at? And it's like, I'm just one man, right? I'm not purporting to be perfect.
That's fine.
So I had Nariel at 10.
Okay.
And we just established your 10 was Saucy Mane, right? So we're still up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I also have a bit to go before we get to Nariel. I will say that. There is some disagreements. I mean, I think Nariel, my issue with Nariel is it's just not enough events, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable.
It's just like you're going to 6 events, but like similar to Beckfin, like I look at actually, I'll say this, right? Beckfin and Nariel are like right next to each other. To me, I actually had Beckfin over Nariel, and we might get to we'll see what happens. We'll see how the data pours out and how the whatever. But it's like that close, like they're really close, and it's just like you're going to 6 events, and yeah, you have some good wins, but it's just not enough. Like you need to, I don't know. There's so much variance in one event. Like to me, the other thing is that you live in Connecticut. You can go to so many events. Like I understand that that like Nariel is a student, and I get that. At the same time, it's hard, but it's just hard sometimes to consider all the different factors. If we did that for everybody, the PR might be really different. So it's just hard to do something like that. And I think that I can only really excuse it if it's like if there's like a physical barrier, like for example, Maine. Like if you live in northern Maine, like Eduporp and Dr. Lame do, and you live 3 hours away from the local, okay, maybe we can have for me, I would give, I might be lenient with them for sure. But I don't know. You live in Connecticut. You can go to events. Your peers in Connecticut go to events. Like you can definitely carpool with people.
This is the most I've ever disagreed with a take of yours on the podcast.
All right, fair enough.
I think this take is booty. I think physical barriers versus emotional barriers versus time barriers, like you're a student or you're in med school or whatever. I think to distinguish between those is BS. And not to say I'm totally excusing only going to 6 events. I mean, you can say he went to 6 events and he didn't have enough stuff, and that I think is totally reasonable. But I think once you start saying that him going to only a few events is less excusable than somebody in Maine, I think that's total BS. Because what? Like, how is a physical barrier any more of a deterrent than not having any time because you're a full-time student? Like that is to draw that line, I think is crap.
I don't know. I don't know. The problem is that it's not very obvious. This is the big thing, right? It's the same thing with Armada back in the day. Like there's always been an international bias in the sense that like you just literally there's more like the factors are much more determined. They're less gray, right? Like not having as much time or availability is like, I don't know, in my opinion, it's just more gray for me than like living 3 hours away or like the flight being $800, like Armada, for example, to come here. Like those are things that are more determined, like they're very set in stone. Like it's like there's nothing you can do about that. Time is just such a gray area. Also, you have 6 months to like find time. I don't know. It's just
I mean, I could
hard.
say the same thing about somebody from fucking Maine or from wherever, right? Is
I
like
don't know.
if there were somebody from Maine, not saying that this has happened in the past, but if there was somebody from Maine who's 3 hours away from every tournament, but also isn't, a student and just has a trust fund and doesn't have to work, they're going to be able to go to a lot more events because they don't have to fucking worry about anything. We don't know the details of everybody's life, and I think that making a geographic excuse and not making the same excuse for somebody who's a full-time med student or whatever, or a fucking doctor or the president, right? Like that is just BS to me. Like we don't know what's going on in anybody's lives. I think to draw that, again, we're getting in the weeds, but I think to
We are
draw
getting the weeds
to
again.
draw that line and say like, oh, it's okay if you're geographically far, but like you live in Connecticut, the onus is on you to go to shit like that. That's whack
I
to
don't know.
me.
I have always kind of been like that. It's the reason why I'm old. I also I feel the same way about Massachusetts. It's like if you're going to 40 events as a Massachusetts player and we're comparing you to like a Mainer, I just like don't I don't really care that much. Like it's not a big deal, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I grew up in the era where I paid so much attention to top 100 lists and stuff like that when Armada was a thing, and I just like I don't know, just kind of I grew fond of that idea of like okay, like there's more. A lot of areas are gray, but like stuff like you just live far away is like it's like such an obvious factor. But maybe we'll get to it because the list is not over, and like these are things that all influence my PR,
Yeah.
and I've always been kind of high on that idea, both for international players on top 100 lists, why I value some of them more, and like for the mainers, for example. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so
I will
number
I will
11.
say I will say I'm going to jump out here because my 11, 12, well, my 9 and 10 might have been totally whack to everybody listening, and I might have interpreted the data wrong, and I think that's totally fine. Maybe I'll win some people back by saying my 11 was Slocks and my 12 was Saucy Man. We're back. We're
Okay,
back on
okay,
track. We're back on track.
fair enough, fair enough.
So
Okay,
you
fair enough.
you launch. Let's hear.
Okay, my number 11 is gonna go to Abel. Okay,
Really.
so yes,
Wow.
so yeah, so Abel had a very quietly amazing season. No one's really talking about it, but just to
I'm
start,
certainly not. I'm certainly
no,
not.
no, I know. I'll kind of let me give you the journey. So season begins. The first big monthly is Cuckfest, over in or not Southern it's in Boston, like Boston, Massachusetts, that area. I
You've
forget the exact.
already. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you. You've already lost me. Cuckfest was not a big monthly. There were 60 people. Abel was the 1 seed, wasn't he? Or the 2
No, I
seed?
was.
Oh, you were the 1 seed. Sorry.
Yeah,
All right.
let me explain. Hold on,
Okay.
hold on.
Sorry. I'll
With
bow
this
out. Go
tournament,
ahead. Go ahead.
this tournament, it was me, Abel, Shmeli, Cool Slice, Ben. Those are the top names. After that, you get into like players like Kraft and other players like that. And I think like Devin entered, but it was his like secondary, so I don't really care about that. But there was a sizable good players there. Abel was the 2 seed, yes. Um, but he won the tournament without losing a set. I actually got upset at that tournament by two. I got upset in winners, and I lost to. Oh my gosh, who did I lose to at that turn? Oh, I lost to Kraft. Kraft in winners. That was one of my bad losses. I lost to Kraft, and then in losers, I lost to Shmeli, which is just it is we played forever, so it's just a tough loss. But Abel was able to lock in, and he won the tournament. So that's like he already starts the season very, very, very cleanly, winning a monthly over like he didn't beat me. Obviously, that didn't happen because I got upset. But like that's another thing I value. It's like winning tournaments. I mentioned it. Like winning tournaments is a big deal. I don't necessarily care that much about how the run went, especially if people got upset. It's like, okay, you were the best player in the room that day. You didn't get upset. That means something. So the season begins like that. That's pretty good for Abel. After that, a lot of stuff doesn't happen in region, but a lot of stuff happens out of region. And this is where like the idea of me valuing out of region stuff similarly, maybe it puts into perspective why am I having this high? Because let's just go through his wins. So his total wins. He has a win on Nerial. He's actually up on Nerial this season. I think he's up 1-0. He has a winning record on aerial. That's the number 2 player. He has a winning record on aerial. And then his in-region wins, again, they're not like amazing. He has wins on Cool Slice, Saucy Main, Danny. But out of region, he has a win on Kada, Lou, Django, Jada, 2 O'Reilly wins, and I'm Michael, by the way, win, a Tokage win, a Squid win, and a Younger win. Those are like, to have that, and you've only entered 8 tournaments is like you're averaging 2 great wins every tournament. And then on top of that, you won like one of the bigger monthlies of the season.
Okay. I have to jump in on a bunch of stuff here. I have to jump in on a bunch. First of all, Cuckfest, not one of the biggest monthlies of the season at all. Abel was the 2 seed, no diss. If the 2 seed was somebody who's like fringe PR, that is not one of the biggest monthlies of the period. Full stop. That's just like, that is a non-starter for me. If there were no players in the top 10 in attendance except for you, then that is not one of the biggest regionals or one of the biggest monthly. I know it had 60 entrants or whatever, but right. That is not not even close to one of the most stacked monthlies of the tournament. Not to say his win there wasn't great. His out-of-region wins, I agree he has a lot of them, but those are not all great wins. I think most of those people are people that Abel is better than, right? Like, I think most of the people on that list that you named would be ranked right around here in New England, right? Like,
I don't know. I
think the Kada, Squid, Younger, and Jada wins are really good. I think the rest of those are people that I would expect Abel to beat. And maybe that's just a compliment to Abel. Maybe that's just me saying I think he's really good. But I think that particularly the Younger, Squid, and Kada are all really, really good wins.
And I'm Michael, by the way, and Jada. Those players are very good. Like, Jada doesn't go out of region a lot, but like has been number 1 in Pittsburgh for like years and just crushes. Every time he goes out of region, he does very well. But he's not super active out of region. But he would also be high. I would say he would be probably like top 10. Younger would be top 10. I'm Michael, by the way.
Younger, know how good he is. Yeah. And I will say, the more I look at this, I am willing to admit that I probably had Abel too low. I think I underrated his Sunset run now that I'm looking at it. Pretty sick set of wins there, beating in losers, getting the Younger win, beating Danny, beating Shoe Legend, and only losing to Golden and Green Stash, who I both have ranked above him. I just felt like, again, and this is the difference between out of region and in region stuff, I felt like his list of in-region wins wasn't just like not that great. It was like he didn't have any. Like in-region wins, he basically didn't have any. I'm trying to look to see for sure who his best in-region win was. I think that it's Ben. I'm pretty sure Ben is his. Yeah, Nariel and Ben, I think, are his 2 best in-region wins. And again, he had bites at the apple. He has multiple losses to people ranked above him. He has a Danny loss, which is not great. Regex Tori David, Regex Ember. I don't know. I just felt like his results in region were pretty anemic. Granted, I'm willing to say I think that I was probably a little low because his Sunset run is a little better than I think I thought it was. And I, maybe didn't quite do as much of a deep dive as I should have into him. And again, we've already talked a little bit about the out-of-region stuff. I weigh it a little less importantly, and I just don't think the list of wins was quite as impressive as you purport it to be. But that's just me.
No, fair enough. A lot of these players, again, it's just like you have to have, in my opinion, like standout stuff, I think. And like, there's just, not only standout stuff, but also like something needs to be, the fact that you're able to do this in only a few events is like very impressive, and it's different from Nariel, where it's like Nariel's going to 6 events, but like I don't know, his wins aren't like incredible. Like his wins are very like, he has the 2 wins on me and 3 wins on Arn, but like outside of that, and the Q win. But outside of that, it's like every other win is like low end NEPR or something.
Yeah, but that kind of proves my point. All of those wins, you say he only had these like 6 good wins. Those are all better than Abel's best in region wins. Like all of them. He has 6 in-region wins that are all better than Abel's best. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
The problem with the 3 wins on Arn, though, is that I don't know. They're also happening at Hog, where it's like Nariel's beating these players at like big regionals. Or
Abel, you mean?
Like that's like that also. Obviously that falls into it. So I don't know. You have to have. It's just like maybe I might be overvaluing Abel. It's just hard in this tier. Anyway.
Again, I might be undervaluing Abel. I think there's an argument to be made there.
Yeah.
This is kind of
We'll
what we
see.
mean when we say this area of the rankings is just a
It's
complete
just a
fucking
mess.
bloodbath, man. Like
I
it.
actually, and I was telling Nick this before the ballot. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to have. It's actually, I think it's better that we don't put in like hours and hours and hours, like maybe how we would expect the panelists to, because I actually think all of these players that we could talk about, like in my opinion, there's like 25 to 30 players that could be on the ballot for New England PR, and it's like all these players had really cool stuff that happened this season. All of them like deserve to be talked about or whatever. So I think it's okay for us to disagree a little bit too. Like it just means that I mean, Abel probably wouldn't have been discussed if we agreed about Abel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
So
sure, for sure. Because again, like I'm not saying that my ballot is perfect. Quite the opposite. And I think that talking about these things instead of just poring over the data and being like, "This is my 100% unchangeable opinion, and I am right,"
yeah, no, for
because
sure.
I'm fully open to being wrong on some of these things. That said, I'm trying to see
I,
where I left off on
I
mine.
gotta say number 12 because you said
Oh,
you said you're 11, 12,
sure,
right?
sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so number 12. This is gonna be a hot take. Okay, this is gonna be a hot take. I mean, maybe I've already had a few hot takes. I'd say we both have for sure. I think. Uh, but this connects to what I was saying earlier. My number 12 is gonna be Dr. Lame. Okay.
Wow,
Now let me go over this. So again,
that is a hot take. Holy cow!
another very quiet but
What?
beast of a season. Let me go over this, okay? Okay. First of all, you have a winning record on EduPort, 5-2 on EduPort, which is just anybody in the entire anybody in the region would kill to have a winning record on EduPort. Nobody
All
has that.
all at locals. Just say that.
No, no, actually not all at locals because there was one monthly that they had in Maine that they won over EduPort. And that is
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
no, but who was there? Who was there? It's a
people.
monthly, but who was there? Was
It's
it a
it's
weekly? Was it a weekly or was it a monthly? You know what I'm saying?
no, because like that, I don't know. The fact that it's a Saturday tournament means something, you know?
I
Like it's a
disagree.
week.
I disagree. I fully
Ooh,
just disagree with the sentiment. I think a monthly is the quality of monthly is based on who's there, right? In the same way that Cuckfest, yeah, it had 60 people, but and I don't say this to be disrespectful, nobody was there, right? It's not a Mass Madness. Mass Madness, we get
for
33 at
sure.
Mass Madness. We get 33 at Mass Madness, and Conflict is like the 12 seed regularly, right? That is a monthly. That is a big tournament, right? If you, up in
Sure.
Maine, if there's a Saturday tournament in Maine where it's the same group of 10 people plus maybe 10 more that are, not contending for the win, then that win doesn't mean any more to me, right? Than beating him
No,
at a
I
weekly. I
agree.
just that's just how I
It's
operate, man.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, I think the way I look at it is like I don't value nightclub or rather like stock exchange that much higher because it's stacked. Like I don't value it that much more than Mass Madness, to be honest. I value Mass Madness more than stock exchange, even though stock exchange has like 80, 90 people and it's stacked. It's a weekly tournament on Wednesday. Like it's like it happens every week. You can't expect people to go into that tournament with the same level of care, as a monthly. I just think
Well,
that's
I
that is
disagree with this premise. I disagree with this analogy because I don't think that nightclub is more stacked than Mass Madness. It's just straight up don't. I
well.
think
I'm
that
just
Mass
giving.
Madness has a higher concentration of players. Like I think that I think this analogy just doesn't work. Because
Well,
like especially because why are we looking at weeklies out of region? Because that just totally messes with the analogy.
I'm just giving you an example. Like it's a stacked weekly that like some of the Connecticut players have. But at the end of the day, it still goes under their locals section in their data. It's not considered a monthly or a regional because it gets stacked and there is like 10 top 100 players sometimes attend that tournament. Like at the end of the day, it's just still a local. And I think that because it's a like at the end of the day, there is to me some value in there being a weekend tournament that happens monthly, once a month, that people like prepare for and go to. Like that matters to me. And like at the end of the day, I don't know many players that would have been able to go to that tournament and beat Eduport to win the monthly, even if it was just
Sure.
Eduport.
Sure.
You know what
And
I
this,
mean?
I don't want to
So
get
it's like,
too I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I have to devil's advocate one more time and say, wasn't Cuckfest like on a Friday night with live music being played close to the setups?
so okay, Cuckfest was on I think it was on
It was
Monday,
on a
and
Monday night in
it was on Monday.
Boston with live music being played near the setups, and that
No, the
counts
live.
as one of the biggest monthlies of the ranking period.
Hold on, hold on. I'd say what was the biggest month? It's one of
Yes,
the
you
biggest months
did. You said it
of
was
attendance.
one of the biggest tournaments of the ranking period. That is what you
In
said.
terms of attendance. In terms of attendance, it has 60
That's not
players.
what matters.
No, I know, but I was just saying that. I'm not saying that that's like.
He's just saying that. Come on.
I'm just saying attendance wise, it was one of the biggest tournaments. But I agree that obviously the the quality of the attendance matters, of course. Also, the live music wasn't right next to it. It's a whole other section of the
Okay,
tournament.
I wasn't there,
So,
so I will hold that one.
no, it's all other section. So it's
Okay.
not. So yes, and I mean I value that similarly to like BitBar, for example, where it's like BitBar is a monthly. Like Devin to me won a monthly over David, and that was a big deal for me last season when I was doing my ballot. Like Devin won, he won BitBar. It's a once a month tournament. Yes, it's on Wednesday, so it's not like as to me if I had to match them up. If there was a BitBar that happened on Saturday, yes, of course I would value the BitBar on Saturday more. But
This
I
is
do think that matters.
Oh
It does.
no, no, it doesn't. I just fully disagree with this premise. But I,
Oh
I
man.
don't I don't want to detract any more and get any more in the weeds than we already have. So tell me more about Dr. Lane.
Yes. Okay. So Dr. Lame wins a monthly over EduPorp, which, like it or not, nobody else in the region can say that they did that or that they would do that potentially. We don't know. It depends.
We don't
Who
know.
knows?
That's true. We don't know.
We don't know. Okay. Outside
There's
of
just
that,
too
right?
much of a physical barrier between Connecticut and Maine, so those Connecticut players don't get a chance.
Well, it doesn't have to be
It's
Connecticut.
kind
It
of
could be New
unfair
Hampshire.
to the Connecticut players when you think about it. They
Yeah, but
just like there's a 5 hour gap. How are they supposed to go and play Eduport when they can't get up there? Now
man,
this is
okay.
now we're getting into the weeds,
It
right?
doesn't have
Because
to be
because
Connecticut.
you want to say that it's unfair, or maybe not unfair, but you want to say that the physical barrier preventing the Mainers from coming down. But now all of a sudden, winning a monthly over Eduporp is enough to get you on the PR. But nobody else had a chance to go do that because there's a 5 hour difference preventing them from doing so. I'm sorry.
Well, that's not just
I'm
Connecticut.
fiery right now. I've
No, it's not just Connecticut. You could be New Hampshire. The tournament was in Portland. Like that's only an hour and a half, I think, from Manchester. I think.
Yeah,
Like
but
it's not that far.
I'm not talking about from Manchester. I'm talking about to get to there from Connecticut or from wherever, right? Like
Okay,
there's
yeah, but I'm saying that.
I'm just saying that this is more me saying the physical barrier stuff is a two-way street, and it's not just something that prevents the Mainers from being able to play with everybody else. If you want to say that winning how many people were at this monthly? Can I pull it up? What tournament was it?
It was Good Morning Main Melee. Let me see.
Let's see how many people were at this tournament.
I can just
I'm
tell.
doing the deep dive. No, I want to see it.
Okay,
I want to be surprised. I want to be
look,
seven.
look, man.
Seven
Okay,
people, and we're saying he won a monthly over Eduporp. I'm sorry, Josh, Doc Lane, love you, but we can't be saying that they won a monthly over Eduporp when there was 7 people there. Seven, come on, bro. This is bad.
luck, dog. This is just my take, man.
It is. It's a bad one.
At the end of the day, it's a weekend tournament that people like attended, right? At the end of the day, main players attended it, and like that to me. Look, okay, the barrier stuff. The problem is that for Mainers, everybody is far away for them, right? Like the Northern Mainers, if Porp and Josh are coming up from Northern Maine, like everybody is 3+ hours away. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But if the tournament is in Portland, like if you live in Massachusetts or in New Hampshire, that's not that bad. You know what I mean? And
sure.
that's why the
Again,
Portland.
the physical barrier stuff. I was more just saying it is a two-way street, and I was also saying it just to get under your skin a little bit. I really do think we should get back. I want to hear more about Doctor. I want to
Okay,
hear
yes,
more
yes,
about his season, or their season. Sorry.
their season, yeah. So outside of that, they are 2-0 on Conflict this season, and also have a win on Icy as well as
Mm-hmm.
that happened at Sunset. Icy
Yep.
beat Nario right before that.
Icy's a good win.
Icy was a pretty beast win. That's the resume. It's not a big resume,
No.
okay? But this is the thing with this season, right? Is like, or with this area of the PR. I think it's just you need to have something stand out, and I think having a clear winning record on Eduporp on top of going. This is where the main stuff. This is where my, my personal the way I value stuff and the whole like international idea of like going far away and doing well matters to me. Like this, the Dr. Lane was able to come from Northern Maine to Sunset Melee and have a really good run. Was able to beat at that tournament, beat Hysteric, good player, lost to Slox, beat Matt.Zeb, beat Conflict, and then beat Icy, who had just beaten Nario at that tournament. And I don't know, that's like pretty meaningful. If you don't have many chances, you have your one chance and you have a pretty, and who knows, that could have been Nario or somebody else. It doesn't matter. The point is, Icy made an upset, and that's the way it went. But that's pretty meaningful in this year when players need to have some standout performance. That's a big deal to me. And on top of that, you're 5-2 on Eduport, and that's like a clear winning record against. And you won them. And you won. Again, it's not the most stacked monthly in the world, but you did win a weekend event over Eduport. Like Not many players have done that. In fact, Eduport is notably very beast at weekend events. It's not easy to win against them at weekend events, actually.
I think to call it not the most stacked monthly is like the undersell of the century. There's 7 people, dude. That's not a monthly. It's just not. I don't care what day of the week it happened on. I don't care if it's on a Saturday. I don't care if it's. I don't care. There's 7 people. I get it. 5-2 record on Eduporp is really good. Even if it's all locals, right? Like we don't have to die on this hill of regional versus local because you're not going to change my mind. And 5-2 is
Right.
impressive either way. I don't care if it was all locals. Like we've already established, I value head to heads pretty holistically. Like I don't draw as much of a line between the regionals and locals as you do, or the monthlies and locals as you do. So I think 5-2 on Eduporp is amazing. But you also, I will just push back a little bit on the talking about at Sunset. Like he had his chance and took advantage pretty well. I flatly just don't really agree. I mean, the conflict win is good, and Icy is a solid win. It's a little nebulous. Again, he did beat Nariel. We know Icy's good. But it's a little nebulous, kind of similar to like a Q win, like kind of maybe in that ballpark, but hard to say exactly. But talk about having chances. He played Slox and he played
Hey,
Tiramisu. I'm so sorry. I'm
no,
bad
you're
at
good.
it.
You're good.
They played Slox and they played Tiramisu at that tournament and lost both, right? Like you want to talk about having your chance and taking advantage. Like those are 2 really good chances. And I
Sure.
know that if they had beaten Tiramisu, they would have played you and would have gotten some real bites at the apple for like higher level PR people. I just don't see it. I flatly don't see it. I love Josh. I think having a 5-2 record on Eduporp is super impressive. I will never downplay that aspect of things. I will downplay a 7-person monthly. Sorry, Maine. I love you guys. I used to come to a bunch of Maine locals. I've supported the Maine scene. 7 people is not a monthly though. I can't co-sign that.
Fair enough.
And
That's
so
fine.
I just flatly disagree. Dr.
I mean, at the end
Lim,
of the day,
I apologize, Josh. You are not on my ballot at all. You're not even in the honorable mention spot. Sorry.
that's just how it goes.
It's just how it
That's okay.
goes. It's
That's
just how it
okay.
goes.
I mean, I think that Josh could like at the end of the day, this is like a whole big tier for me. Like Josh could be, yeah, I had Josh at 12, but I mean, Josh could have been as low as like 16, 17 for me. But like I really do think that I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean the tiramisu was a tough loss. Like, I'd be great to have, you know. But I mean, tiramisu at that tournament also beat me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Is it that big of a deal that you lost to tiramisu when tiramisu just beat Electroman,
No,
who's
I'm not.
also a
I'm not saying it's a
you
huge
know?
deal. Again, I'm not trying to say it's a huge deal that they lost that set. I'm saying you brought up the point of like, well, they went to Sunset and took advantage, and I don't think that's entirely accurate. That's all I was saying. Is that like
Okay,
you want to go to these big tournaments and get big wins, and it's like, is losing to Tiramisu a bad loss? No, but it is a big missed opportunity. Not only because it's a win that you could have gotten, but it also prevented you from having more bites of the apple against even better people, right? Like
sure.
the reason I have one of the reasons I have Golden so high is because he did take really big advantage of that at Sunset. Not only getting the wins, but the fact that getting the wins allows you to get another one after and another one after. And Golden won like 6 straight high quality sets in a row, right? Like that's the kind of thing you need to do to have that kind of standout thing that you're talking about. So that was just me pushing back on that a little bit. Not to say I don't think that those losses are bad by any means. I mean, Slox and Tiramisu, we know how good those players are, but that's all.
Okay. All right, fair
Wow,
enough.
that was a lot. Sorry, I got a
No,
little
no, this is what I mean. At
me-ish.
the end of the day, this is just how it goes.
Yeah,
I
I got a
mean,
little
yeah,
me-ish there. So 13 onward for me, we're dealing with similar like. There's a lot of Connecticut in this range. Like I think we can agree on that. That like a lot of Connecticut players are somewhere in this range. And I'm not the best at gauging Connecticut because a lot of it is based on weeklies and like very scant monthly results. At 13, I had Arn. Am I crazy or no?
okay, well, if you asked the Electroman that put the Gent that put Eduport right before this, maybe or not Eduport, but Dr. Lame right before this, maybe he would be wild. I don't know. But I actually had also Arn
Oh
at
wow,
13.
okay. We agreed at Arn at 13.
Yeah,
Despite
yeah.
everything before this, somehow we found love in a hopeless place. We found a
Look,
way to agree.
we might value different things, but you know, there's places we agree on for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arn is Arn's tough. Like I love Arn. I think he's one of my favorite players in New England. I hope that he keeps grinding. I know he took a break for a little bit. Like for me, I would want to see. He's one of those players I would just love to see skyrocket. Because I just think that he plays melee the right way. Sometimes, like at least with Marth, it's well maybe saying that is hard. There's not many players that play Mark the right way, but he does, and he really tries to be his best, and I respect it a lot. And his season was great. Like it wasn't amazing, and there wasn't like any standout. This is where we're like, once you get to like the 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 range, these players don't really have any like big standout performances, but they're just solid. And so like I'll just go through the wins. So he has a win on his winning record on me. Or no, sorry, even record. We're 1-1. He's up on Green Stash 2-0.
On
Uh,
conflict,
up on Conflict. Up on has a win on Evening Star, win on Apollo,
win on
uh, win
Nariel,
on win on Nariel. I think he's actually yeah, no, win on Sebas as well, win on
mhm.
RD, and just kind of crushes
Evening Star
uh,
too. That's a sneaky one.
Evening Star. Yeah. So uh again, no like absolute standout performance. You didn't win any big monthlies or anything like that. And there wasn't like a major that you went and made a run with, like for example, like Regex or something like that. But just solid performances all around, great winning records, and yeah. So Arn's great. I think he's awesome. I hope he keeps going, keeps pushing.
Yeah,
So
I feel very similarly. I think that he had like a pretty quiet, if not, solid performance. It's one of those things, like one of those players you wish had more bites at the apple, because like no sets against David, no sets against Tori, no sets against Coffee, no sets against me. Like that's tough. Do I think that he would beat those people? Not necessarily. Like I would obviously predict the top end of the PR to be beating Arn. Like that's just the way of the world. But having no bites at the apple is tough because you never know, right? Sunset, he
exactly.
kind of had a chance, had a tough pull in Golden and Losers, not only because Golden's really good and was in Losers early because of the squid thing I was talking about earlier, but also because, I mean, it's Falcon Marth and Golden plays Calvar all the time. Like, that's just a tough pull. You know what I mean?
Right. And one thing
Um,
I'll mention is like very few bad losses. You're
yes.
going to 15 events. You're losing to like your worst loss is like Spades and I guess Kuro, but like those are players that are, I mean, especially Kuro. Like this season's been very good for him as
Yeah, he's
well,
a
and
punch upper for sure.
definitely a punch upper.
Yeah.
So
So I thought Arn
okay,
just had a really solid. We agreed on his placement. Like I think
he did.
very understated, but really solid. Not too much. Almost like I think very similar in the build of his resume to Greenstash. To me, just less impressive wins and head to heads personally. And that's
Okay,
partially because Greenstash had more bites against the people who matter more, in terms of the weight that they carry. So
sure,
I think
sure.
that's one of those things like on a PR. Oh, go ahead.
No, some other it could be also like us valuing different things. Like for me, the Outer Region Sebas win is quite good.
Yeah.
Uh, but like that didn't happen. Like Green Side didn't even get to play Sebas, so maybe it's hard to say.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah,
That's just the nature of rankings, right? You only play the sets you get to play.
yeah,
I had at 14. So my 14, 15 are also both Connecticut. My
okay,
14, I'll just say my 14, 15 was Conflict Artie. I had Conflict and Artie at 14, 15. Both, again, kind of similar, like you were saying, in this range. It's less about like the, you know, consistency and like no bad losses and stuff like that. It's more about like what were the things you did with the opportunities you were given? Did you come away with one or two really high quality wins, high quality tournament runs? And I felt like both Conflict and Artie did that. Just to kind of give like a 10,000 feet view of both. Conflict had a win on me. Artie got the huge win on Coffee and Losers at GamerCon, which was just part of a bigger run for Artie at GamerCon, where he got a pretty good handful of wins. Um, so I felt, again, I really struggle with ranking Connecticut people because so much of the results this far down is like, how are they doing at the weeklies against each other? And it's always kind of hard to separate those things. But I had conflict in Artie. I'm pulling up real quick the Artie runs at regionals at the bigger tournaments.
yeah.
I know that he had 2 wins against you at Prodigy Classic, which is huge. Um, I know that he has a bunch of coffee or a bunch of conflict wins. He has wins at Sunset. He beat Shmeli Trail and Q, which are all pretty solid wins. And the GamerCon run, he beat Apollo and Coffee, which are both really solid wins. Um, Coffee being, top 3 in New England, that's a huge win, but Apollo also being a really solid player. Um, so I just felt like kind of similar to you were saying, like, what is it? What did you do with the opportunities you had? And I felt like Artie and Conflict both came away with some big wins. I'll do a quick dive into Conflict as well, just give like the 10,000
Sure.
foot view, and then maybe you can go a little more specific. Again, I don't even know if you had these players here, so I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but I'm pulling up the
No, you're good.
Conflict
You're good.
stuff right now. My computer's lagging, sorry.
No,
So
no, go ahead.
conflict, just again, like 10,000 foot view. He had the win on me is huge. At Mass Madness, that's a really, really big one. He had wins on, I think he had a couple Arn wins. He had a winning record on you, I think 4-3 or 5-4 or something like that.
Yep.
which is huge. Wins on Green Stash. He had an Eduporp win. Granted, it was at a local, but still an Eduporp win. We were just talking about how we know that is valuable. Um,
It is.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else that like really stands out. Saucy Main, like that's a really solid win. A Project win at SSS is really that SSS run of his in general. He beat Golden U and Project in the same day to get, I believe, fourth, which is pretty sick at a regional.
Wild run.
Maybe the most standout single run of anybody in this range of the PR. So I had Conflict at 14 and Artie at 15. And even now that I'm looking at it, I think I could have Conflict higher. And I think I could have people like Nariel and Green Stash a bit lower if I had spent a little more time with the data. But that was how I had it. So what say you?
Okay. All right, yeah. So honestly, very, very similar. Although there are some hot takes here for me. 14, though, I do have Artie. Okay.
Okay.
So more things to say about Artie is he has the top 100 win on freezes, which Conflict
Mm-hmm.
also has. Both of them have a win on freezes. Very good. Some other out of region wins from Artie, and again, this is kind of where my value stuff also goes into it. He's got the K Dog win as well, which is like not a player that you see travel often outside, but
He's
I think
good.
K Dog's pretty good. Usually, and I think has a winning record on Conflict when they play in New York.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
K Dog,
to estimate for anybody listening who doesn't really know, I feel like K Dog is probably around Arn level. Like definitely not getting into like the regex level of Marth, but I think that K Dog and Arn would be like a pretty close comp.
yeah,
Just in
K
terms of
Dog,
like how good are they generally.
right. K Dog, Apollo, also another good win, and then two Lu wins as well, which aren't like Lu hard to kind of gauge where they're at, but probably maybe a tier below this range.
Yeah.
So those are some good wins, and then of course in region, yeah, you got the two wins on me, which I think is a winning record. I don't, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
2-0.
2-0. I haven't lost, or I haven't won this season. He had my number this season, and on top of that, he's got the win on coffee,
Yeah,
which is
that's
just
the
like
feather in the
so
cap for
meaningful.
sure.
So many, and it happened at CT GamerCon of all places. It's like, and it's just like Artie's not going to a lot of events. I think this season was probably one of his lower attendance, actually, surprisingly. But it is meaningful to me, and he doesn't really get upset. Like when he's losing to some great players. I think his worst loss might be like, I think he lost to Snoo, and Snoo's like a good player. And I think he did lose to Jib, I think, but I don't know. I forget who Jib is. I don't know.
Jibs
Um,
box from New York, pretty good.
okay, yeah. So those aren't great losses, but I mean, again, in this range, they're so similar. So that's my 14. Okay, now I will say Conflict was my honorable mention.
Oh,
Okay,
okay, interesting. So does
so
this
my number.
mean
Go ahead.
I want to preempt this and say that this either means you have Devin at 15 or Devin missed your PR entirely, which would be pretty crazy to me.
I will say Devin missed my PR.
Wow.
I will.
Okay, so who was 15?
So 15, the one and only Danny Heavenly Sunflower.
Wow.
15, yes. So
Okay.
I will. One thing about Danny that's always plagued him every time he's competed, especially recently with like in the last 2 or 3 years, is that he just also loves to have fun a lot and troll, and it hurts his resume a lot. Like in the past, you'd look at his resume, it's like his wins are just incredible. He's beating amazing players, but then he's losing to random players. And yeah, like you could argue that maybe we shouldn't count them that much because he's playing random characters, but he himself tells us to count it against him. So it's hard to force that against him or say something different than that. So he's always kind of been a struggle for him to really push up into New England PR because he just is this player that like clearly skill wise, whether it's Ice Climbers or Bowser, is could do any really could be pretty much anybody in the region, but also could lose to anybody in the region too. This season though, it is the exact opposite. If you look at his resume, it's probably his with 59 tournaments. He was number 2 on the Attendance Hall of Fame, which we'll get to later in this podcast. In the second part, 59 tournaments. He's the most attended player in the region, or the second most attended player behind Burn. And this season, he has literally almost no bad losses because he switched. I think he switched up his like feelings a lot this season. He was really trying to like he like just locked in on Bowser and Ice Climbers. He barely played any of his random characters. And so if you look at his resume, like his worst loss, I think like Fantastic Deli, and that's like one bad loss out of 59 tournaments that's not a big deal, I think. I mean, you have some other bad losses here. Like, I mean, you lose to like Blip You Dip, which is one of his best friends in the world. So that was maybe a set that they trolled, whatever the case may be. But for 59 tournaments, him having like I don't know, like 5 or 6 not great losses, bad losses or whatever, is so different from like the 20 or 30 bad losses that he usually has that really
Yeah.
hinders his performance on a ballot. And on top of that, like so his losses are fine for the second most attended player in the region. His losses are perfectly fine. On top, but in addition to that, in terms of his wins, he's 2-0 on Ember. That's a winning record on Ember.
Yep.
He's got a win on Green Stash, win on Slocks, 2 wins on Conflict, and those are all happening at regional events. And then outside of that, his local performances are pretty good still. He beats like some of the players in Massachusetts. He's being like Saucy Main and Green Stash, but their records are better. Or I think Green Stash he actually hasn't played many times. I think he's actually up on I think he's 1-0 on Green Stash, but Ben usually kind of wrecks him, to be honest. He's up on Dead Stock a lot. And then he has some really good out of region wins too. He beat Younger. I think that happened I want to say recently at some big tournament. I don't recall, but it happened recently. He
I'm
beat Younger.
pretty sure that was at Sunset.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. Younger. He also beat Hoborg, and he's beaten Swebby as well, which is for what it's worth, I think Swebby would be like a low HM ice climber, quite good. And then Hoborg, like I said, Hoborg is another great player.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's like you're the second most attended player. This is the best, in my opinion. If the way I look at it is like when I was thinking about Danny, when I was ranking him here, I was thinking, man, I don't know what else he really could do right now outside of what he did this season. Like, really, it's like because his bat outside of that, yeah, he loses to Future Shock a lot for sure. But like, they also play 35 sets every season, so it's not like the biggest deal in the world. And he doesn't really have any bad losses compared to his past seasons, or not any egregious loss, not so many. So it's really just there really isn't much else that he could do, I think, as a Bowser player, unless he switches fully to Ice Climbers.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess I just don't think it was good enough still. Like, I think that he's done really well. I think it's his best season ever for sure. I think I had him around like 19-ish. But I just don't think it was enough. I think personally, I think having him above Green Stash is kind of crazy. I can't square that circle. The 2-0 on Ember is huge though, for sure. That is similar to how Green Stash has the winning head to head on me. Having a winning head to head on somebody of that echelon is huge for sure. Yeah, I disagree, but I see where you're coming from. I think the 59 tournaments is a huge deal. Like, it just is what it is. Activity pays. My HM, like how you said your HM was Conflict. I already said a little bit about Conflict, and you already said a little bit about Abel, who I had at HM.
okay.
Pretty similar to what I said earlier with Abel, like kind of a lack of in-region stuff. Some really solid out-of-region results. The win at Cuckfest is, no small deal, but not a premier monthly win or anything like that. And like I said, I think now that we've talked about it and I've looked at the data a little more and talked about it with somebody, because it's different when you're just looking at the data for yourself.
Yeah.
When you have somebody else to talk to about it, I think I probably had Abel a little low, and I maybe had Slocks low. And I definitely think I probably had Green Stash a couple spots too high. But again, that's kind of what this is all about, right? Is seeing,
Yeah.
getting a second pair of eyes on it, being like, oh yeah, maybe I am interpreting that a little bit incorrectly. So I don't know exactly how I would do it if I had an official ballot. I'm glad I don't, because it lets me sleep a little easier knowing that
For sure.
my flawed interpretation of the data is not necessarily, causing people PR spots.
And for what it's worth, I had Green Stash right after Conflict. He was my 17.
Yeah.
So it was very close. And yeah, I think similarly, I probably, in terms of what I would change going back after talking to each other, I think Dr. Lame, I could see being. I mean, when I was thinking about Josh's placement, I was like, okay. I think these to me, like Josh, Arn, Artie, Danny, Conflict, Green Stash are like they were just so similar. I was just like trying to look for different things that pop out, and I mean, I don't know. I could see Josh being as low as HM on my list too. Um, but I guess I just valued it at the time. But of course, like Josh could change for me, and having 12 was probably a little bit too high. But I do think that like even despite everything that they are in this kind of tier, and outside of that, trying to look, yeah, I mean we had very similar takes. I think our golden slocks we swapped on. I think
I
or
had
no,
Slocks a bit lower, but yeah, I think I had Slocks and Saucy Mane both a little lower than you did, and I had Green Stash and
yeah,
Golden a little higher. Um,
yeah.
and then I had Abel a little lower, but I think in hindsight I'd probably bump him up a little bit because of the outer region stuff that I probably was weighing a little lower than I should. But anyway, we could split hairs about this all day. The big thing is that this just gives us a picture of like what are people thinking about when they make rankings, what are the things we value versus don't value. As you can tell, me and Gent have pretty different skews of what is not important to us and what is maybe less important to us,
We
and
still agree a
that's
lot.
yeah, and the general picture is still largely the same. So it ends up being just a good exercise in overall looking at who were the best players, why, what makes them the best players, what were the most impressive things that some of these players did. So that's why we like to do our ballots again. It doesn't matter; it's just for fun. I'm sure some people are reading this or hearing this and pulling their hair out because of how stupid we are, and that's totally fine. Right? Feel free at a tournament to tell me how stupid you think I am. I'll take it on the
Yeah,
chin.
same,
We
same.
will take it on the
Like
chin.
at the end of the day, I think this was also our longest ballot. Like, and when we've done these, this is our third time doing it. I think this is our longest ballot. I think section portion
Yeah.
because it is really that close. And also we had some disagreements for sure, but it is just that absurdly stacked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tighter than ever on the bottom half of this. I think we generally agree on like the 1 through 7, 1 through 8 ish area, as tends to be the case on PRs, but it really becomes a bloodbath after that. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this first chunk of our New England Melee podcast. This ended up running pretty long, this first chunk, so we're gonna have to see what we want to do
Sorry,
with the
y'all.
second half of this episode. This might just end up being a feature length New England Melee podcast, but we'll find out. So it's just going to hard cut to the next part, but this is us signing off for the first half for the ballot section, and we'll get into the games and drafts and all that fun stuff soon. Catch you guys later. Hello, welcome back to the New England Melee podcast. This is the part 2 of the recording, as was mentioned in part 1. Me and Gent, just our schedules were a little difficult this week, but we wanted to make sure we got things recorded and pieced together. So if some things are a little different, I think I'm wearing the same shirt, but if some things are a little different, it's not a continuity error. It's just this was recorded in 2 pieces. So we finished the PR ballot discussion last time, and now we are going to talk about some of the games, some of the drafts, some of the more fun stuff beyond just our PR ballots. This is where we get to throw around some props to people. Gent's going to do a little newsroom segment later and talk about even some stuff that I didn't hear about because they were at tournaments that I wasn't in attendance for. So it's just going to be a whole rundown. This is kind of the more fun side. If the front half of this podcast is the business side, then this is the fun side, right?
Yeah.
But that said, we're still going to do some talking about the scene, some giving people props, giving people accolades, maybe a little bit of flaming each other, as is routine.
Of course.
Is there anything you want to say before we just get into the superlatives segment here again?
No, yeah, I mean, I think superlatives are always a fun time, and I think that the games are always the ones where we can be really creative and hopefully give, I think when we love to talk about New England PR, but that's only at the end of the day like 15, 16 players, so this is a chance to maybe talk about some people that people don't really think about all the time.
Yeah, totally agreed. So for anybody who doesn't know what superlatives are, it's like at the end of a basketball season or a hockey season or a football season, there's these end of year awards. We're giving our end of season awards based on criteria that we completely invent in our own heads. So the first superlative, for example, is offensive player of the season. And what that means is totally up to interpretation. I think when we did this last time, I kind of interpreted it as, who gets the most off of an opening, or like you can interpret it as who's the most rushdown player, who's the most like just bang their head into a wall, aggressive offensive player. So again, we might interpret things differently, but for offensive player of the season, again, you want to lead us off?
Absolutely, yeah. So when I usually do these superlatives, I have multiple people I'm thinking about. So I want to give my runner-ups first. So my first runner-up is going to go to Kuro the Arbiter. Okay, so Kuro, the best way I've just been describing him recently as the Zoomers Ganon main. You know what I mean? Like he's just first of all, he's averaging 50 viewers on Twitch. He's all over like melee clips now, and I mean it's just which is really cool. But if you watch his gameplay, he's just so fast. Like it's gameplay that you would see in like a YouTube Shorts feed, where it's like half of it is like Subway Surfers or whatever. Like half of it would be that would be Isaac's gameplay. That's just how fast he is, and he tends to translate that speed into offense most of the time. Mostly because that's just the way that he likes to play the game. He's not really defensive back airing, walling, or whatever. He's going in a lot, trying to find his grabs, find his openings, find his edge guards. This is the player he is. So got to give some credit to Isaac. He's done great. So he's one of my runner-ups, and then the other runner-up as well. I got to give it to yourself. I always try and gas you up a little bit when it comes to offense. I think especially your Fox this season has showcased a lot of great offensive tools. And I think that Torrey, a great defensive player who we've talked about a little bit on this podcast, like basically every single time we talk, you tend to open her up very, very well when you play against her. So I got to give some love to you. But ultimately, I ended up giving it to the one and only Full House's own Saucy Main, Benjamin Saucy Main. And I mean, Ben this season, I think he had a bounce back season for sure. Like last season, he didn't really have anything special about the season. He didn't have great top like any out of region wins or anything like that. But this season, he's really put it together, and he's done it while still maintaining like his really aggressive. And I'm just gonna like pull all the punch. I'm not sorry. I'm not gonna pull any punches in neutral. That's just the way he plays. It's very different from his like peer in Green Stash Devon, and it's really cool to see that he's kind of been able to still hold that play style and get really really good wins. So much love to Ben. I think he's done a great job this season. He is my offensive player of the season.
Dig it. I totally agree. I really echoing. There we go. I really agree with the fact that him and Green Stash are so different. It's cool that we have two really solid Luigi players, two PR level Luigi players that are like as polar opposite as it gets. Totally agreed on that front. Ben is super aggro to his detriment and to his benefit, which is, I think that's what being an offensive player is all about. Like you were saying, I would categorize myself as more of an offensive player. I think you got to beat people with offense more than you beat them with defense if you want to be good at the game. And if you're an offensive player, truly, it'll burn you sometimes. I think that's what makes it fun. I had a couple people that I was thinking of for this one. One of which was Slox. I'm a big fan of the way Slox plays. I think you can tell that he's been playing the game a long while. He's always looking to capital O outplay you. That's why like Slox versus Project at Mass Madness when that was Grands was like cinema to me because it was just two people running at each other looking for like the next open. By the end of the set, they were on like 6 layers of neutral outplays, like where the stupid thing becomes smart and then becomes stupid and then becomes smart. So that was really really fun set to watch. But I think my number one offensive player of the season is Conflict. I love the way Conflict plays because it's not that he's just rushing you down all the time. It's that he knows exactly how to leverage defense to get an opening, and then he takes a lot off of every opening. His edge guarding's really clean. He kills you off of touch a lot. Again, it depends on what character you play a little bit. And I also think how I was saying that if you're an offensive player, it represents, the highs and the lows, the rush of outplaying somebody and getting your huge opening and nuking them, and the downside of putting yourself in a bad spot and getting burned for it. When I watch Conflict, that is like, I think of that in a nutshell, right? And it's also just the nature of playing Falco, right? Is you can try and play that really measured style of Falco, but ultimately that character is balanced on a razor's edge, right? And Conflict, I think, represents that razor's edge, where when he's on and when the buttons are working and when he's outplaying you, it feels almost insurmountable. Like it just feels like you're climbing a mountain. But at the same time, if something isn't quite right, if the buttons aren't quite right, or if he guesses wrong a couple too many times, sometimes it falls apart a little bit. And that's the nature of being an offensive player, is that you're putting yourself in positions where you don't always have recourse and you don't always have an answer. And you are taking those gambles of, well, if I'm wrong, I'm kind of smoked. And I think that Melee is at its best when you're willing to take those risks, and I think Conflict is, and I love that. So he would be my number one on that front.
Hell yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, defensive players. Again, I think the last time we did this, I gave it to Green Stash, and I want to shout him out because I will always say that he's one of the most patient and, not campy, but patient and just will wait for you to fuck up. Like I might have even talked about this in the last podcast, but at GamerCon last year, so this was like a year and change ago, I watched him and Ember play a game on Yoshi's Story, Game 5, where one stock took like 3 minutes. Because Ember was just on the top platform and Devin was chilling. And was just waiting for her to get bored or to do something stupid or to get off the platform. He wasn't going to chase her up there. It was just like a statement in, pure defense and pure, willpower and willingness to stay the course, which I think is great. I'll always shout him out for defensive player. But I think I'm going to go a little more granular this time. Again,
Okay.
the last time I did these superlatives, I know you did them with Mac, with Garagi, 6 months ago or whatever. The last time I did these superlatives, I went very general of like defensive player. What does that mean to me? This time I'm going micro. Who has the best micro defense in New England? The slide
Okay.
offs, the SDIs, the molecular precision on defense that leverages so much in terms of reward and openings and getting out of stuff. It's golden. It's been golden for years.
Ooh.
His defense is insane. It's crazy. He's the SDI god. He's grabbing you off of every drill if you play Fox. He's grabbing
Yep.
Falcos off of Falco down air. He just SDIs out and grabs in between the dare and the shine. He slides off everything. Everything. And I think that it's so cool that he's so precise and strong on defense because he is always doing it with the intention of getting an opening. Like, I even call it the golden when we're playing friendlies that if hit him with a Fox Nair or something up to a platform, he's always sliding it off and he's always doing an instant dash grab off the slide off. Always. It's like he uses that molecular, precise knowledge of defensive game, and it's always with the intent of how do I get in, how do I get in, how do I get in. So it's almost like the precision defense that allows him to play really offensively when he wants to. I think it's super cool. So again, I decided to go molecular this time, and I think that the most consistent in terms of the little things on defense in New England to me has been Golden for like years. It's probably because I play him a lot too. I'm probably biased, but I just think his defense is awesome. Wanted to give him a shout out. So Golden, you're my defensive player of the year. Bang.
Oh wow, what a great pick! Yeah, I didn't even think about it, but you're totally right about. Again, I don't play him enough to be honest, but you're totally right. When you play that guy, it's so hard to get meaningful hits sometimes. And as a Falcon player, you got to have those skills. It's a big deal. So that's a great pick. So for me, I think I went more typical for defensive player of the season. Definitely kind of more playstyle based and positionally based. My honorable mentions, runner ups, I got to give some love to Danny Heavenly Sunflower. I think that if any play, I mean, if you've ever played him, that guy does not run it. It's just so he's picking shield as the mix up 9 times out of 10. And maybe it is because he's playing Bowser, you get shield into up the other shield or whatever. But still, like it's just the way that he plays. I mean, also it just again it takes advantage of Bowser's strengths on the ledge attack, ledge jump, these kinds of things, and also he's able to convert a lot of the times on those defensive wins into great edge guards, great back air and fair reads, F tilt reads with Bowser, and sometimes he does like back throw fire breath too out of like a defensive position. Really, really interesting, and he's always kind of showing us new stuff with Bowser. So, got to give some love to Danny. And then so the two people I was really stuck between for defensive player of the season were there was two players I think people have seen in grand finals plenty times this season in particular, especially at one specific local. But at the end of the day, I had to give it to Bonfire 10. So Tori has to be my defensive player this season. The other player I was thinking about was Coffee, the Peach player who just moved to Massachusetts recently, and they're playing in grands all the time, and I think that it goes defense goes hand in hand in these sets. Like they're timing out like at least a game if it's a game five set. They're timing out at least once, if not multiple times. And the reason I give it to Tori is just that she always wins. Like it's just when it comes down to it, and even when she's down in a game, she makes the percent back up. She takes the stock, she evens the stock count, and then ends up winning almost always. But Coffee's also always there too, and both of them showcase. If you just go watch any of those sets in NGP Grands, they're always showcasing some really good defensive skills. They may get a lot off their hits out of like reversals and stuff like that, and of course that's part of their characters. But they do a really good job of showing good defensive play. So shout outs to them. But yeah, Tori is going to be my defensive player of the season. She's won, I think, the defensive player of the season that I've given. This is, I think, the third time that she's won in a row. It's just hard to beat, but Coffee's close. Coffee's close. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'll take any chance to give Tori props. I think the scariest thing about her is that she's so good against Spaceys now, especially Fox, because she's gotten a lot of practice with me in particular. We play a ton. That Fox is now probably one of her, really strong matchups. But I think the scariest thing about Tori is that when you watch her play Puffs and Sheiks and Marth's not named Calvar, it's like, oh, these are even better. Like these are her matchups. That's like where her playstyle wants to be living. Is like I just play against her so much with Fox, and I watch her play against Fox so much because I want to watch and learn things from my own perspective. But then I see, her versus Coffee or her versus Artie, and it's like, oh yeah, this is where she belongs. Like this is her at her strongest, is when she can kind of leverage that defense
Right.
more appropriately. So totally agreed. She's a menace. You want to give your rookie of the season shouts? I'll let you have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one
Well,
first.
yeah, yeah. Breakout. Do we want to do
Oh
breakout
yeah, I'm
first
sorry.
before?
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I
Okay,
misspoke.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So for breakout player of the season, for those of you that don't know, breakout tends to be, I mean, the way that I guess Nick and I define it perhaps differently. That depends, you know. But for me, the way I define it is player that's already kind of been on the scene for a little bit, but is establishing themselves now as like a legitimate threat in brackets to some of the best players that we have around. And my runner-ups for this award, I have one main runner-up, which is going to be actually one of my picks that I got last season for the Stock Risers, which was Hengos, the Jigglypuff player from Western Mass. Hengos has just been I mean, this is the reason why I picked him like last season. I was just thinking, okay, this player's showing some dog. You know, we just need him to go to monthlies, and he's been going to stuff. He went to Max Madness, he went to All Stars, and even though the runs weren't like super big, he's putting his name out there. He's getting sets to game five. Like there was when I tell you there was like 5 or 6 sets against PR players across the region that he just couldn't close against. It was just that close. And to me, the breakout is we're in the midst of it. Like this is a player that's showcasing people who they are, and it's just really cool to see Henghost put their name out there. And then yeah, but ultimately, I had to go with my best friend in the whole wide world, Brandon Brams, the Ice Climbers player, who this season just totally switched up his approach to melee. When I tell you that the story I always give at sunset, we went back to our hotel room after the first day, and when I tell you this guy was so in down in the dumps, like obviously the tournament was awesome. I had nothing to do with the tournament itself, but I think he was just convinced that like melee wasn't for him, that the drive was gone, that there wasn't like a home for him with melee, and that he perhaps was even wasting his time a little bit as well. And I tried to convince him like, look, that you can make something out of melee, you can make it a hobby that feels fulfilling, right? And I think for like a week or so, he definitely didn't take me seriously, but then the next week he's like, I'm just like gonna go to like NGP randomly, which he doesn't usually do because he lives in Rhode Island. And he went up there and just had like a killer run. And then from then on went to like I think it was its highest attendance this season. I think he had like 40 events, 40 plus events, which he never gets because he's never super active. And just went out with a bang, like had some really great wins, beat Good Life a few times, beat I want to say he beat Danny Heavenly Sunflower, I think once, maybe twice. And there's probably some other big ones I'm not remembering. Beat Henghost, but and had some really close sets with some great PR players. So he's my breakout again. I think we're in the midst of it. I hope that he continues the grind. He loves ice climbers. He loves grinding. I think Nikki is just his hero, you know. So my hope is that he continues. But yeah, Brandon B. Rams, got to give it to you, my man. Good shit this season. Breakout player of the season.
Really, really good pick. I think this is perfectly emblematic of when I think of a breakout player. I think of somebody like Brams. Really, really good pick. I have one person for this. I read breakout player and instantly was like, yep, I know who that is. Easy pick. Somebody you mentioned earlier who's been around, been amassing some quality wins, but this season was their first time getting really premier wins, like high PR wins. And is probably, I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet that this person will probably be on the New England PR in the next couple of years. If they keep on the track they're on, it's Kuro. It's the Arbiter.
Yeah,
It's Son of Sparta, whatever you want to call him. Like clear emblematic picture of the breakout player, in my opinion. Somebody who's been around a long time, but this was like clearly his level up season in terms of going from here to here, right? However you want to quantify that. I mean, he got a win on Tori, he got a win on me. Those are like really, really high level premier PR wins. He won a hog for the first time, which is, regardless of how stacked it is, that's just a big deal. Winning your home local for the first time, where you basically grew up playing melee, like that's a huge deal. And like I was saying, I don't have too much to say on this. I just think that he's probably going to be on the PR in the near future. If it's not the next one, maybe the one after that. He's definitely at that level of skill. It's just a matter of putting it all together at the monthlies and getting wins like he had this season more consistently, right? That's all you can really do. That's how you end up getting in that 12 to 15 range, is just by doing what you're already doing, but more consistently, putting it all together. And I have a feeling that he's going to do that. So he's easily my breakout player of the season. Like that was, I thought of this one immediately and stopped thinking after one person. So I'm sure there's other people I could have shouted out, but this one was just too easy for me. So I went with Kuro for my breakout player.
Hell yeah.
Rookie player, on the other hand, is one where we want to highlight people who are not necessarily newer, but certainly a step down from the breakout player. Not necessarily anybody who's getting like high PR wins or anything like that. It's more of somebody who's on the newer side of things and is really starting to figure it out and put it together and making that kind of the first big jump, right? From
Yeah.
two tour to local contender, right? Something like that. At least that's how I think of rookie of the season. There's a few people that I thought of when I was thinking of this. This one's always really hard for me because I'm not always super tapped in. Like you're kind of the bracket wizard. I feel like you tend to have more of a immense knowledge of this level of play. So I'm sure that I'm forgetting people. I'm sure that I'm leaving people out. There were a couple people I thought of for rookie of the season. It's always tough for me to draw the line between rookie and breakout. I actually, because I don't want to open myself up and be silly on this one. I hate to just keep throwing it to you, but I'm going to let you go first.
No,
Because,
I'm happy to go.
yeah, please, because you're going to give
me some ideas too, and I'm sure that there's some people that I egregiously forgot. You're going to get my gears turning, so you go ahead with your rookie of the season.
No, I'm happy to go. Yeah. So I'm similar in the way I define the award. For me, you're going from like a completely new player to now you're really starting to make decent runs in bracket. It doesn't necessarily you don't have to be like contending for first place at the local or whatever, especially if you're going to like Hog or NGP, where I mean you have to be New England PR players to even be a contender. You just have to be making decent runs on the reg, and so some of my options I was thinking about, I gotta give some love over to Ren, the Falco player that goes to NGP, and also is the TO for Scomefest over at Northeastern. I think just graduated actually, so congrats to Ren. But yeah, Ren's awesome. We had a very, very tight set. I know that he's watching this and probably cringing a little bit. Very tight set at Cuckfest early in the season. It went last stock game 3. I was able to clutch it out, but that was super spooky, and he's had some solid runs at these tournaments. I believe he's beaten QWERTY, who's a beast of a player at NGP, and has beaten some other players. I don't recall all the wins. I think beat Moop perhaps at least once this season. So has had some really solid runs. Is starting to put things together. Ultra grinder, always playing, always studying other Falcos, and just talking about how he's gonna. I think literally when he took a picture of his graduation, like, and then posted it the other day, and the caption was, I will save New England Falco. So he's like so locked in, and I have so much faith in him. So Ren is one of my honorable mentions. The other honorable mention I got to throw over some love to is over in Connecticut, the Dr. Mario main known as Dicey, and I got to give some love because this player. I think people really, if you don't live in Connecticut, you probably weren't thinking much about this player at all, but Dicey has had some really great wins, and early this season, I believe he went game 5 with Lottie, and Lottie reverse 3-0'd him, which was incredibly tragic. But later on in the season, picked a Lottie win up, which was really cool to see at Hog, and then also at CT GamerCon made it into top 32. I believe. I just want to make sure he beat Dad's Akimbo into Lottie and Andrew as well. So some great wins picked up there. Those are no slouch players, especially at one of our regionals. And the one thing I'll say about Dicey as well is that Isaac, the Arbiter, always, anytime it gets really close, he loves to say that, I think that he just loves to say it's getting dicey, And so got to give some love to Dicey. But ultimately, the rookie of the season for me, if you pay attention at all to the brackets, especially Massachusetts, this might be a little obvious, but for me, it's got to go over to Burn, the Peach player that was number 1 on the Attendance Hall of Fame this season with I want to say I think it was 60 tournaments, which is just so absurd. Like that is if you again our seasons are 6 months. Okay, so you're going to like 2.5 tournaments every week. You know what I mean? Which is just so absurd. Like that's not easy to do. It's a lot of hours in the week to do. And Burn has been having some really good runs. Like has wins on Brams, has wins on Moop, has wins on Fantastic Deli, and Andrew has gone game 3 with me a couple times. It's starting to put things together, and I think that she's really set on her trajectory, and I really hope that she continues to grind. We needed the Peach player. Obviously now we have Coffee and Max, but it was cool to see Burn start to put things together. So she is ultimately going to be my rookie of the season.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I remember watching you had a game 3 set with Burn at a New Game Plus where I was in attendance and it was on stream, and I remember watching it with Tori, watching basically the whole set. I think we tuned in like very end of game 1 and we watched the whole set, and we were both floored not only at how close it was because we know how good you are, but also we were just like, this is like pure outplay. Like it wasn't like there was nothing cheesy. It wasn't like Burn was just sitting in the corner and down smashing you on platforms. It wasn't all chump checks. It wasn't all gimps. It wasn't all cheese, if you want to call it that. It was like me and Tori were just watching it and we're like, wow, Gent is just straight up getting outplayed. Like this is kind of mind-boggling, because you don't see something like that super often. Typically, a player around Burn's level just making it look like, oh yeah, I'm just better than Gent in this moment, and it's like that's kind of jarring, and I've had moments like that myself, being on the receiving end of that, and it's always this kind of award, you always naturally veer towards people that you've played at least a handful of times, where you come away from the set being like, wow, that person kind of gets it. You know what I mean? And with that said, I think this is too good of an opportunity to do some New Hampshire rounds, and give some props to some people in New Hampshire. Most notably, I'm going to say I have 2 honorable mentions and I have 1 for real pick. Okay. 2 honorable mentions. 1 is Andrew, who you mentioned, and who I think I probably mentioned for this award last time. I just always, every time I play him, I'm like, he was kind of doing some stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know how seriously necessarily he takes Melee. Like, I know that he cares and competes. I don't know, he's a busy guy, work and a wife and all that stuff, which I can largely relate to. It's hard to always be, 100% on the grind, but every time I play him, I feel like he's gotten better. And I just think he's starting to put stuff together. My other honorable mention, another New Hampshire Fox Brotherhood member, I'll give to Deli, because Deli has taken games off of me in the Fox Ditto, which, that immediately, kind of like you were saying with Burn, immediately you're like, wow, like you have to kind of get it just to even take a game. You know what I mean? That's not even me having a big head. That's Melee, right?
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Deli. I think once he really starts to put stuff together, I know at Strange Brew he had a game 5 set with Kuro. I know that he's made some serious moves this ranking period. Maybe not necessarily picking up any huge wins, but just getting closer to where he wants to be. My number 1 though, goes to a lot of tournaments, is ranked in New Hampshire, will continue to be ranked in New Hampshire, on that lower end of our PR. It's got to be Moop. I'm just a huge Moop fan. I will say, even outside the game, I've always been friends with Tori. The New Hampshire players have always kind of been, close with one another. And because I'm friends with Tori, I've become really good friends with Moop, because of their proximity, which I think is awesome. Like, he's just such a cool dude. He fit right in with like the whole New Hampshire ecosystem. I know it's kind of an intimidating group of people to try and just fit right into, but he's awesome. I love him to pieces. And as one would expect when you train and learn from literally the best player in New England who also plays the same character as you, he's improving fast. He's improving really, really fast, amassing really quality wins. I always joke that he's the NGP amateur bracket assassin. He's like always in top 3 of the amateur bracket, or the redemption bracket, I think they call it officially. He's always, it's him and Burn are like, they battle in amateur bracket. They play so much because of that. And I just think Moop's great. I think he's improving at a really steady rate. I think, with the resources that he has, both living in New Hampshire and getting to play against, the New Hampshireites so often. You go to Fotai, you get sets with Golden, with Ember, with Tori, with David, with me, and having the immediate access of, if I get really stuck and I don't have a solution, I can just, walk down the hallway and say, hey, Tori, what would you do here? Like, that's pretty good too. That helps.
Pretty good.
So I think that he's on a good track. So shout out to Moop. Shout out to New Hampshire. I had to go all New Hampshire for this one because what else am I going to do, right? I know these people well. I know these people well.
Absolutely.
That gets us into clutch player of the season. I will say that in seasons past, I think it's still a valid answer. I'm not prefacing this by saying that it's no longer correct. This one is always like it's Calvar and I walk away. Like it's always so easy to just pick Calvar for this one, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick not Calvar this time around. And for my clutch player of the season, I am picking Bonfire 10. I've already talked about her a little bit. I know I'm going out on a limb. I'm picking not the second best player in New England. I'm picking the best player in New England this time.
Okay, fair enough.
But solely because of her GamerCon run. That's why I picked her for this one. The run at GamerCon was fucked up, man. Like what can we say? She gets knocked into losers and just goes on a tear through everybody. She had to play everybody at GamerCon and beat them all. She beat Calvar on the biggest stage. Like that's always been the bugaboo for her, is that Calvar's always been a problem. It's always been, a losing matchup for her in terms of just the sheer head-to-head numbers. And in that moment, with a chance to go to grand finals, got it done and beat him on that stage, which is extremely, extremely rare. For David to lose in that kind of spot at all, right? He had just come off of beating Tommy in a set that, was a complete bloodbath. And as soon as, I'll say this as somebody who wasn't at GamerCon and who was watching from home, as soon as Calvar beat Tommy in that loser semi set, I said, Tori's winning. Or I said David's winning. Sorry, no, I misspoke. Sorry. As soon as David won that Tommy set, I said David's winning. Right? Like as soon as he was, I misspoke and it killed some of the momentum of what I was saying. As soon as Calvar beat Tommy, I said he's winning this tournament. Because that was it. Like he built the momentum. He got past Tommy. I thought him beating Tori was a done deal. And that's no diss to Tori. People know how highly I regard her. But as soon as he got into that spot, I said he's going to beat Tori, probably 3-0, and then he's going to go beat Wally, probably 6-1. No diss to either of those two players. We've read the story 1,000 times. Right? Yes. And the fact that Tori beat him in that spot and then went to Grands and beat Wally pretty handily. I know the game count was pretty close. I think it was 3-2, 3-1. But that set both of those sets just felt like they were in Tori's control. Like, again, as somebody who was watching from home, it looked like Wally just didn't even want to be there. I also have some inside intel that Wally offered to split in between the two sets. And Tori said, hell no. Which is kind of sick, kind of baller. Not to cause any drama or stir any pots, but that is what I heard. That is what I heard. So the fact that she beat David in that spot, in the spot that we've all seen David a million times, just dismantle whoever was next. Like remember Mass Madness this period when he lost early in bracket to Regex and went down to losers, and as soon as he won like 2 sets in losers, everybody was like, yeah, this tournament's over. Like he's just not losing these sets in these spots. It just doesn't happen. And I thought GamerCon was the same thing. And then Tori beat him in that spot and went on to win Grands and win the biggest tournament, or one of the biggest tournaments of the ranking period. So Tori's my clutch player of the season. You go, Tori. You're goated.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's some funny insight. I didn't think about that. Let's go, Tori. Good shit. Well, as per usual, I think I'm gonna have to take the opposite end and be a little bit more, I suppose, more normal. But my pick is gonna have to go to Calvar.
Wow.
I think
Wow. We dug to the bottom of the barrel for these picks. We picked the two best players in New England.
Look, I am okay with this just being, if David retired tomorrow, I would call this the Calvar Award. It's just that connected. I would call it the Calvar Clutch Player of the Season Award. Right?
He's the Grim Reaper, dude. He's the Grim Reaper.
He is. And I think you mentioned it, but I really got to put more eyes on this Mass Madness run, because once a season, no matter what's going on, no matter how poorly or well David is doing that season, he has one tournament at least where he gets wrecked in winners and then goes on this huge run in losers. And the reason why this hit particularly hard to me personally, even though I didn't even make it that far to even be a part of the run or whatever, is because he beat Regex in grand finals. And it was bad. It was a 6-0. Noah looked like he didn't belong there. It was that bad. And the saddest part was that a Massachusetts player hasn't won Mass Madness in 9 years or something. I think the last person to do it was Tiramisu 9 years ago. And it's been since then. And Noah had it. It was right there. And he even beat David, I think, to
Yeah,
get there
he
in
did.
winter, like at some point in winter. So it was like you beat the Grim Reaper. You're right there. You just need to close. You can break this curse on our own tournament that we haven't been able to break, and it just like come on, come on. It really did not feel more. I remember after the bracket, I went up to the mic and I was just like, fuck New Hampshire, because I was just like, I was just over it because it's like, come on, man. Well, our one moment, we had our moment, but that's okay. David can have it. He is ultimately my clutch player this season. I don't know how. It's just hard to not give it to him.
Yeah,
Always.
he's the killer of moments, dude. How many people have had their moment in the palm of their hands, and David steals it from them? I certainly have. Right, I'm glad that I got the one Mass Madness from over him. I thought that was a done deal. He 3-0'd me in the first set of grands, and I was like, "Yep, just another notch in David's belt of ruining people's weeks." Like that's who he is. I will give one little shout out for this one to Tommy. Didn't go to enough events to get ranked this time around, but his Sunset run kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
What he did at that tournament was pretty mind-boggling, especially to get into top 8. He had to reverse 3-0 me to get there, and then beat Tori there to make 5th at the tournament. He was the highest placing New England rep at Sunset at the biggest tournament of the season, which is pretty insane. So just a brief shout out to Tommy, but I can't give you clutch player of the season if you only went to 3 tournaments. Sadly, not enough of a resume of clutching and being awesome, as much as I love. Okay, next up is comeback player of the season. You can be coming back from anything. We've learned in recent years, for any sports fans out there, we've learned that comeback player is no longer just for injuries. It used to be comeback player of the season. You had to be coming back from like tearing your ACL or breaking your leg or something. Now we got people whose comeback is just they're coming back from being ass, right? That's just the nature of the award now. Not to say that's where we're going with this award, but I'm saying it might be. Who knows? But comeback player of the season just means you're coming back from something, whether it's because you've been gone or you've been out of the game or something like that. So Gent, you wanna run through what you had for this one?
Absolutely, yeah. So my runner-up for this award, I love giving this award because it always gives me a chance to use last season I think Slox was on my list, and everybody knew Slox obviously, but I usually dig deep for these because I'm always in the brackets, always seeing who's coming back. So my runner-up for this is actually going to go to maybe somebody that people didn't know that is back, and that's going to be I Own All Iowa, the Fox player from Northern Massachusetts. Yes, he has been attending stuff. Yes, he's back. He just went to a tournament this past weekend up in Maine, and this season, if you're wondering, he's on the Massachusetts ballot as well for Mass PR. I don't know if I doubt he's going to make it, but the big thing he did this season was he actually won a tournament over 22K, which is a Mass PR player. And they're actually, if you look at the records, there's not many non-Mass PR players that have never been Mass PR to win a tournament over a Mass PR player this season. It's just it really it doesn't. I think it was like it's like I think it happened with I think Oz did it, and Oz is probably going to be PR this season, and Iowa is the only other person that did this season. So much love to Iowa. He's also just super awesome to talk to, super like level-headed guy. It's really cool to see him back, and I hope he keeps going and keeps grinding. Ultimately, though, I end up giving the award to one of my banes this season and has been for a while. And that's going to be the Falco player Good Life, who just moved back here this season from SoCal. Went to SoCal, I think, for work after graduating from BU, and was there for like 2 or 3 years, and now is just fully back. Lives with Ben Sossimane in the middle of Boston, and is just grinding away and trying to get really good. He's up on me this season, 2-0, which is a great record to have, and is who knows? I think he's very likely to get Mass PR this season too. He has a really great records across the board. It's really cool to see him back. We really needed another Falco player because like Younger moved, and then Shmilai, who is active now, wasn't active for a while, and we really just didn't have any Falcos. So Good Life really was holding it down until some other folks are coming back, and so much love to Good Life. I think he's really really cool. Again, level-headed guy and on the grind. So he's my comeback player of the season.
I love it. Good picks. I'm so stoked that Iowa is back too. One of just like the coolest people ever. For anybody who doesn't know, I don't know if he still does, but he used to work for Geek Squad. So he had a business card that said Agent Steve Zarella, which I thought was awesome.
Yo,
He literally had a business card that had Agent in front of his name, which I thought was awesome. I called him Secret Agent Steve for years. I love Iowa. Super homie. I used to go to PM tournaments with him before
before I even knew him as a Melee player. So, love IOA. And Good Life is back. I got to play him at Sunset. I was stoked. I don't think he played his best in that set, which was a bit of a bummer, but I was stoked to get to, I think that was the first time we had ever played. And it was like, I think Sunset was his first tournament back in New England, or one of them. So it was a cool, I got to be the welcome wagon and remind him that we have cheesy characters that can ruin your week. I had 2 people in mind for my comeback player of the season. One of which I just had in my head and it's escaping me. I don't have all my stuff written down. I'm a vibes-based podcaster. So hold on. Let me remember what we were saying for a second.
You're good. No problem.
You were talking about Good Life. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I was talking about Shmeli.
Yeah, that's who it was. Thank you, Shmeli. It was Shmeli. Okay. Because Shmeli he goes through periods of dormancy. You're the best for reminding me of that. Yeah, my honorable mention was Shmeli, because he goes through periods of dormancy and inactivity. He's always kind of active, always kind of labbing, always kind of playing net play, but he goes through these weird 3-month stretches where he either doesn't go to any tournaments or goes to very few. And this was one of his longest periods of not attending in recent years. But he came back and instantly he was having good sets with Coffee and Regex, instantly. High PR players he was either beating or pushing to the brink, showing that even despite not being active, he still 100% has it. It's only a matter of time before you start seeing him in, top 3s of NGP every week and top 3s of monthlies if he decides to start attending again. We all know how good Shmeli is. It's just cool that he's back again. And he told me specifically, I saw him at Anime Boston. We were both running the Melee setup at Anime Boston, and he told me multiple times, he said the words, "I'm for real this time." He's going to come back and compete for real this time. I don't know if that'll end up being true, but that's what he told me. So stoked to have Shmeli back. My pick for this one is a little unorthodox because it's somebody who has been back for a while. You mentioned that you had this person the last time we did this award. It's Slox. And the reason I picked Slox for this award this time was because he opened the season by winning Mass Madness. Yes. And I know that he had already been active for the ranking period prior to this one. I know that this wasn't his first period of activity, like I was just saying with Shmeli. But that Mass Madness run to me was the crystallization, the full realization of Tony's back and he's good. He's still good. He's back in New England. He's running shit again. He's still nasty. Because you can get third at locals, you can win Hog, you can get top 5 at monthlies, whatever it is. You can prove that you're a PR caliber player. He was on the last PR at 13th, I think 12th or 13th. But when he opened the season winning that Mass Madness, I think that was a big moment for a lot of us where we were like, oh shit, Tony is back. And while that did end up being the highlight of his season and the rest of his season, kind of was a little weaker than that one tournament, that just felt like the official moment of he's back. He is not playing around anymore. He's fully where he needs to be. It just felt like that moment was his comeback. And that's why I picked him for this season's comeback player of the year, because I just felt like that was the biggest. I think this award is a moment award for me of when you see the comeback player of the year in football, it's we never expected him to set foot on the field again and he blew all of us away. It's there's that moment of wow, my hair is standing on end. I can't believe this is happening. And when Tony won Mass Madness, there was a little bit of me that felt that way of I could have picked a million people to win this tournament and I wouldn't have picked him. No diss to him. It's just, that's the nature of being inactive and other people getting super good. But he kind of turned back the clock for that one day, if nothing else, which was super impressive. He turned back the clock and got it.
Sick.
The next award is one that I am really fond of because I don't like to have a big head and picture myself as fitting certain awards, but the scariest person to see in your bracket path award, I think historically, that's where I fit in. Nobody ever wants to play me, mostly because of the character I play, but also because I just play like a bonehead. I like to make people feel stupid. I always like to think that I'm a scary person to see in your bracket path, and that's why I love thinking about this award. Who are the scariest people to see in your bracket? And there's a couple people that I thought of for this. The first person that came to mind, I didn't end up picking him because, again, it's tough with a lack of tournaments. The first person I thought of is Tommy, because he's nasty. He's top 3 in New England level. You're getting popped off on if you lose. He's going to be, jabbering between games. There's going to be banter. There's going to be back and forth. There's going to be maybe a little bit of disrespect. He's just one of those people that, as much as I love playing him and as good as I think he is, I'd be content to never play him in tournament ever again because it's just such a high stakes, like a cortisol spike in the making. Like I don't need that. And I say this as somebody who blew a 2-0 lead to him at Sunset to make top 8. Like I felt it, man. I felt it. It was so tough. So he's one of the first people I thought of. I also thought about Kuro for this one, just because like we don't have Ganons. It's a matchup nobody's practiced with. And when I started thinking about matchups that nobody has practice in, that is what led me to pick Coffee from Massachusetts. He's somebody who we don't have many peaches in New England at all, much less peaches that are PR level. There's Artie, but everyone kind of knows Artie's almost like a cryptid. Like if you're not in Connecticut, good luck getting matches with Artie. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's busy. He's hard to find. He doesn't travel a ton. So it's not somebody that you're just like, oh yeah, I play Artie all the time. Like there's very few people who can say that. So I think most of New England has kind of become out of practice against Peach. And as a result, boy, Coffee is terrifying. Because not only is he a Peach, he is the Peach. He's considerably better than any Peach that New England has had in a decade. And that is terrifying. I say this is somebody who played him 3 times this ranking period and got sunned all 3 times. I got wrecked. Because I as well am a little out of practice against Peach, and because he's just nasty. He is somebody that I don't want to run into. Like you were saying, he has that grindy defensive ability, but he also has the ability to nuke you. He can switch his style in an instant. Just somebody, again, I just have no interest in playing him. Just give him to Tori and give other people to me and keep us on the other side of the bracket from each other. I don't need that. And part of it is that I'm biased because Peach Game & Watch is, like I'd rather punch myself in the face than play that matchup. But that's Melee, right? Is you have to play who you have to play, right? You can't rig the bracket. And it just is what it is. But he's a terrifying force. And he will continue to be for a long time, I think. He's top 100 for a reason. So he just scares the shit out of me. He's my pick for that.
Good pick. Yeah. I definitely feel the out of practice with Peach. I've been playing Peach every single day because it's nearly every day because it's just like I need to get back in shape. So definitely feel that. I think ultimately, I'm gonna go a little bit more normal. I think, and maybe it's unfair because he wasn't active this season, but I just think that it's too difficult to not give him the award. I gotta give it to Tommy. I think that the thing about Tommy that's so scary is that he's taking every round of the tournament so seriously. He has notes for everybody. It's like it's something that if I had a little bit more time, I would want to do that and be as prepared. But sometimes I just don't have the time to do it, and I'm going into tournaments maybe sometimes half-assing it in some ways. That guy does not half-ass. Like he's not going to an event if he's not fully ready to look at notes for everybody. And it could be a round one opponent. He told me that. Or no, he mentioned he went to Prodigy Classic this season, and he beat me at that tournament. We were talking a little bit, and he mentioned to some people that the hardest opponent for him in that tournament was not me, the 2 seed at the event. It was actually or Green Stash, the 3 seed at that event. It was actually Blue Velvet, the Fox player, who is a solid player. Don't get me wrong, but like isn't making big runs at the top 8 or anything like that. And he mentioned that the reason for that was because he had no notes on her. And so it was just like I think she took him to like last stock, I think, at least one of those games. And he was like, yeah, I had no notes on her. And so it's just, but he wasn't expecting that. I think she had made an upset before playing him or whatever, or the bracket got changed. So he's preparing for literally everybody. If you live in New England and you're just even decent, he probably has notes on you. Like, so just be aware and prepare for Tommy. So he is my scariest person to see in your bracket path.
Dude, I totally forgot about his extensive notes on everybody. That's such a good reason to be scared of him. When I played him at Sunset, when we sat down to play, he had his notes open, reading them, like at the setup while we were plugging in and doing hand warmers and stuff. And he specifically told me, I watched like an hour and a half of your VODs. He watches VODs of people, not just PR player. He watches VODs of everybody, and he watches VODs of every matchup. It's not even like, I'm lazy, right? If I want to do some intel into somebody, like if I want to learn how to beat Gent in the Fox Ditto, I'm not watching Gent play against Marth. I'm watching Gent play the Fox Ditto, right? But he's watching me versus Calvar sets and taking notes like a psycho of little habitual things that I'm doing. Like that is rugged, dude. That's scary, scary, scary stuff. Yeah. He's a beast. And he literally told me, like, I watched like an hour or an hour and a half of your VODs. Like, I feel really good. That's a terrifying feeling.
right?
That's so terrifying.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't like. I just
He's such a
again,
contestant.
just keep us apart. That's scary stuff. And then our last superlative to wrap up this little mini segment of our New England Melee superlatives. Our last one is the MVP of the scene, our overall MVP award. The last time I did this, I got to give it to G-Town, which is kind of an easy cheater answer. But Gent, I want you to. We're in a post G-Town world now. We're solidly
We
in a
are.
post G-Town world, which makes this award a lot harder to give. There's a lot more mouths to feed, so to speak. It's a lot easier when we just have one, Mother Goose who does everything, and we can just say, "Oh yeah, G-Town is the czar of New England." So where did you go for this award?
Yeah, so I think, MVP of the season, one of the things that I think is important to think about is that there's so many ways to be an MVP, right? You don't have to be G-Town Tom. I really don't believe that you have to do that to be, considered for something like this. It's not like we're speaking the gospel or anything like that. We're just two people giving our thoughts. But I hope that I speak for most people in the region and in the Melee community that you don't need to be G-Town or this person that's doing so many things to be considered MVP. You can be a small town TO or somebody that's doing the seeding or somebody that's bringing the CRTs. Everybody that does stuff like that can be and is an MVP in a way, right? And so that's kind of the way that I was thinking about this award, especially because I just wanted to shout out the people who do that kind of stuff, the small things. And so for me, I went to two people. I had a runner-up answer, which is going to go to Kenny. Okay, so if you don't know
Oh
Kenny,
wow, this is a good pick.
yeah, deep pull. Okay, so if you don't know Kenny, Kenny is the basically. I mean, he says it. He loves saying it. He is the designated driver for Danny Heavenly Sunflower. He takes him to all the events, and it's not like as far as I know, they don't like live near each other really. Like I think obviously they're both in Southern Mass, but they're not like neighbors or anything. They're not like related or anything like that. This is just like his one of his really good friends that he wants people to see how good Danny is, that he will take him to any event. Like you could say he's taking him to Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, wherever it is, if it's an event where there's going to be other great players and Danny wants to go, Kenny is all in and wants to take him. And it's hard because like when it comes to stuff like the Attendance Hall of Fame, for example, that's for people who are like paying their venue fee, paying their entry fee to get into the brackets are the ones that are competing. And so the competitors get all the love, and people like Kenny don't really get that much love and stuff like that. And so this is the chance for me to just kind of give some love to Kenny, who does the like for the people who don't have licenses in Melee, which is a lot of us. I do, but a lot of people don't. Like it's Kenny is the MVP for people like Danny or others. So Kenny's my runner up, but ultimately I ended up giving it to my local TO in Massachusetts, the main local, probably the premier local of New England, which is NGP. I got to give it to Bonk Cushy, who technically is a part of a multiple TOs that run NGP. But the reason I give it to Bonk is because he is really doing so much to progress NGP into a world where it's so much more refined. And it's stuff on the back end. It's stuff like, okay, do we have commentary slots set up for the tournament ahead of time? Do we have, how are we gonna send out entry fees or like the prize pool and stuff like that? Where are we going to put our desk for people to come in and so that there isn't like there's room for people to move around, stuff like that, or creating roles for people. I know that he works with the entire team to create roles for people to make it smooth and easy to work with. Stuff like that just goes such a long way. And again, it's not something you're going to see in the public eye or anything like that. It's just stuff that happens on the back end, but that is why NGP like is as good as it is. It's because of people like Bonk, and every local has a Bonk Cushy. You know what I mean? So even though I'm giving the award to Bonk, like you could give it to any version of Bonk across the region.
Yeah.
So ultimately that's who I gave it to.
I love it. I think it's a great pick. I totally agree. Bonk, I think at this point, I often think of people who like could get a New England Lifetime Achievement Award in terms of like just pure time in the scene. I mean, Bonk's been around longer than I have, which is saying something. I've been playing this game for 11 years. Bonk's been around longer than I have as a competitor, and he's made that transition from, primarily a competitor to he was kind of inactive for a while, and now he's primarily, I think, a TO. He still plays, he still competes, but I think that he definitely puts more energy towards the business side of things, so to speak, which I always think is really impressive. So I always think of these people like New England Lifetime Achievement, like the Tashindes and Bonks
Yes.
and, stock monies of the world, people like that. My pick for this one, I had a couple people I was between. I gave Moop some thought because I know he's part of the kind of, you know, 9-man operation that's replacing G-Town Tom. Similarly, I thought of Owen Love, somebody else who's kind of stepping in to fill a big void that has been left. Ultimately, I decided to go a little bit more reflective this one and reflective with this one and pick somebody who I think is certainly on their way out, somebody who's still present, who you can still reach, who you can still talk to, but somebody who's definitely on their way out and somebody who I think truly never got enough love and appreciation for everything that they did for the melee side of things because they were considered more on the PM side, and that's Motobug. Motobug, I don't think people fully realize, like when you go to a Mass Madness and there's New England or there's Melee and there's Project M or Project Plus, whatever, depending on what year it was that you were going. A lot of people treated it like the Melee side was run by G-Town and the PM side was run by Moto, and that was just the way of the world, right? They both had their own domains. I don't think that people fully realized or appreciated or even still do exactly how much Moto has done for the Melee side of things. He wasn't just out for PM's advancement, right? He played a big part in organizing and helping run Sunset, again, on both sides. He was the stream genie of Game Underground. Like, the reason that those tournaments were streamed in the quality that they were, the reason the Arcadians and the Mass Madnesses were such high-quality productions was because of the efforts of Moto. He did the overlay work, he did the graphics work, he actually ran the stream, kept up with the score, organized commentary. Part of me is, most of me is really, really sad that I think Moto's on their way out because, again, I just think that they've always been underrated in the things that they've done for New England as a whole. And I think far too many people are just like, oh yeah, Moto's the PM guy. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that his efforts on the Melee side of things have gone unrecognized. And I thought this was a good opportunity for me to do that. So good shit, Moto. You are appreciated, especially as me, who played PM and played Melee, right? I double appreciate you. So you're my MVP of this past season.
Killer pick.
Yeah. Shout out to Moto. So that does it for the superlatives part of this podcast. I actually need to pause the recording real quick because I need to get some more water, and I also need to wake up my fiance from a nap. So it's going to be a brief break. It'll look like a jump cut to you guys, and then we're going to get into our next season stock risers, and we're going to get into a quick newsroom segment, and then we're going to sign off. So this is a lengthy podcast. Appreciate you guys bearing with us. So the recording is going to pause real quick. There's going to be a jump cut, and then we'll be right back with some more hot content. All right, we're back. We are going to do our next season stock risers draft next, which is where we pick 5 players. We go back and forth. You can't pick the same player, so if Gent snipes somebody from me, I have to pick one of my reserves, one of my other people on my list. We both have a list of around 10 people, just in case some of our brilliant ideas get stolen. I will say off the jump, I'm always scared of this segment because I know that Gent, like I was saying earlier, I know Gent knows this level of New England more deeply than I do. I mean, you run Star League, right? That is like that is like the breeding ground for stock risers. It's like you get to watch these players in their natural habitat. So I'm really digging like bottom of my barrel, whereas I feel like this is your bag. So I'm always worried about how I'm going to fare in these stock riser drafts. And as a result, I'm springing this on you. I think I get to go first.
Sure, go ahead.
But it's a snake style draft, so you'll get the next 2 picks after that. My number 1 pick for next season's stock riser. I'm trying to think of somebody that I think you also definitely have on your list, because our lists are going to be very different. I know that they are. But I want to snipe somebody from you. Okay. I am going to pick somebody that was mentioned in passing earlier in this podcast that I think is making moves. NGP regular. I'm going with QWERTY. QWERTY is going to be my first pick for a next season stock riser. I don't have too much to say. I got to play him, which was awesome. We had a really weird set, actually, where game 1, we played Fox Chic, and I 4-stocked him. And then game 2, we played Fox Chic, I think, on Fountain, and he beat me very narrowly. He beat my Fox, like, super tight game. It was a really back and forth game, so it went game 3, and I went back to Fountain and went Game & Watch, and I 4-stocked him again. So we left the set and he fist bumped or whatever. He said like, I think that's the least close 2-1 of my life. Like, because both of the game he won was super tight, and both games he lost, he got like wrecked. But just the fact that he took a game off my Fox with Sheik, I don't really remember much about the game. There's a chance that I probably wasn't playing at my peak or whatever. But even to do that when I'm not playing at my peak, like I'm really good at Fox Sheik, I think, and that impressed me. Tech chasing's really solid. He's already amassed some really solid wins. He's kind of turning himself into a bit of a gatekeeper in mass, where like if you want to make top 8 at NGP, you're gonna have to beat this guy. He kind of lives in that like between 5th and 9th region of NGP. And I think that he's a bit of a gatekeeper. I think he's going to keep getting good wins, and he's going to keep beating people in mass. And I think soon enough he'll be, one of the regular staple players, especially staple Sheiks in mass. Mass doesn't have many Sheiks. I think he's emerging as the one. So he's my first pick.
Okay, interesting.
What do you got?
Okay, so I'm gonna go one normal pick, and I'm gonna go one out of left field pick. Okay. So I think I mentioned this in our first ever episode, which is that as long as this player is going to be active and is looking to grind, and as long as you on the other side of me hasn't picked this player, I will pick the player, and that's gonna go to my first pick, which is Lottie.
God damn it, Lottie was on my list.
Come on, man!
Damn it, man! Lottie was my number 4 on my list of 10. Lottie was my number 4.
Yes. She's such a grinder. Plays all the time, and every season I've picked her, she's continued to do well. So I just love picking her. I think she does great. I'm a Lottie fan, Lottie believer. So Lottie's my first pick, and then my out of left field pick. I'm actually going to go up to your state of New Hampshire.
Don't snipe another one of mine. Don't do it.
No. See, I'm not going to pick one of your players. No. Because I doubt that you're going to pick this player because you probably have never played them. Maybe you have. Actually.
I think you're going to pick. I think that you're going to pick somebody on my list. I really do. You're describing somebody on my list. I'm going to be really mad if you pick this person.
I'm going to go the president of the UNH Smash Club, Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, not the person I thought it was. Thank goodness. I'm safe. That's a great pick, though. I didn't even think of Ted.
So what happened? The reason why I'm picking them is because they just won a main local over. I want to say, I think it was over Saint Isabel, who is the Yoshi player who just moved up to main, and is a great player. Saint Isabel's quite good. Doesn't really travel outside of Maine, but has beaten Stacy's stepdad this season and won a tournament over Jordan this season. So a great Yoshi player. That's not an easy matchup to win. And Ted Kaczynski just won one of the locals over there to start this season off. They're on a great run. They always go game 5 with Jordan too. Just hasn't been able to close yet. And they always ask me for advice. So I'm a big fan of Ryan, Ted Kaczynski. They're awesome, and I hope they keep grinding. So that's my second pick.
Yeah, I actually have played Ted Kaczynski a couple times at Fotais. I think one set of big mode and one set of regular Fotai. We've had some fun sets. Really solid up and coming player. I think great pick. I was terrified you were going to take so I'm keeping this one in my back pocket then, because I think I'm safe. I think you can be my number 5, the person I was worried about. But for my number 2, I'm going. This is going to be a shotgun shot to your chest. I'm going with Brams. Sorry, man. He's on my team. He's got to be on my team. He's like, again, how you were saying, he kind of fits the up-and-comer role when we were doing superlatives. He wasn't on my list of superlatives, but he is on my list of stock risers. Not only because I think he's really good, but also because he plays Ices. That's like the stock riser character. Come on now. No. That's like the safest bet ever. I need Brams on my stock riser team. I think that's a really safe bet. I think he's going to keep getting some high-quality wins. I think he's going to get some of his first PR wins in the next few months, as long as he keeps attending and keeps that fire, which it seems like he will. So he's on my team. Sorry, I had to snipe you from Gent. You're on my roster. And I get to pick 2 because it's a snake draft. Wait, this is awesome. Okay.
It was my next pick. That was a good pick for me.
Perfect. I have an order of like kind of the order that I thought of them, like the people who first sprung to mind, but I'm not picking them in that order. I'm picking them in the order of like, who do I need to get because I'm worried that you might take them? So I'm going to go with a Fox player from Massachusetts because that just seems like your bag. That just seems like
Okay.
where you want to operate. And I wanted to have a Fox player from Mass on my team. There were a couple people that came to mind. The person I ended up settling on is somebody who doesn't attend tournaments too often, kind of a net play fiend, somebody I've played net play friendlies with and always been really impressed, especially by their punish, their ability to take things the extra mile. I'm going with Sleeper. Sleeper is my
Mm,
sleeper pick for number
okay.
3.
Good. Good.
I
I
think
like that.
Sleeper is a really strong player in the making. I think again hasn't really shown it much at IRL events, but has a lot of the bag that you need to get wins. Some other people I thought about like Danny Pizza. He was somebody I thought of. I thought of Duffy as a mass fox that I could snipe from you, but I decided to go with Sleeper because I've played them a little bit more, and I feel pretty confident that Sleeper could make some serious waves if he wanted to. So he's my third pick. My sleeper pick is Sleeper. There you go.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, Sleeper's a good pick. I don't know. I didn't have Sleeper on my list, but Sleeper's a good pick. Brandon, Brandon I wanted to pick, but Lottie was my committed pick, and I wanted to go a little bit out of left field. So that's a good catch from you. Yeah. Okay. So my next two. Okay, two picks. So I am gonna go. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go a out of left field pick again here. Okay, and I'm gonna go down to the lovely state of Rhode Island. I'm gonna pick the Jigglypuff player, not the one that you might be thinking of. I'm gonna pick Cha-Ching,
Ooh,
the
okay.
Jigglypuff player. So you might be thinking of Duhame, that's the classic Rhode Island puff. But the thing about Duham is that he's not actually super active. So I don't know if I can trust that Jacob will go to enough tournaments to win me enough points or whatever when we do this next season. So, but I'm sure he will. We'll see. The Cha-Ching is a newer player. Has only started to has played net play a lot, I think, in the last few years, but only started to go to IRL events very recently. And I want to make sure I got the pronouns correct. So give me literally 3 seconds. I just want to make sure. Uh, Okay, she, her, yeah. Okay, so she just started going to IRL events recently and went to a GGRI and already defeated Dad's Akimbo there. Okay, and was able to make a run for third place this season. And I have a feeling it's going to be Rhode Island PR as well. And as long as we can get her to go to like a couple one-ups, maybe a Mass Madness, I really do think that a Puff player, just like you picked the Ice Climbers player, a Puff player is right there for a player that can make massive upsets, big runs, and really raise the stock. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm going to go for Cha-Ching as my third player. And then my fourth player, there's some players I just really don't think you're going to select. So I feel good about holding. But I do think, oh, okay, so I have, so far, I want to make sure I have a Falcon, I have a Fox. Okay, I already have a Fox, and I already have a Jigglypuff. Okay. So I'm gonna try and be a little extra here, and I'm gonna try and pick a different character for my fourth. I'm gonna go with a Marth player. I'm gonna go with Funky Kong
Okay.
from Western Mass. I picked Funky Kong, I think a year ago when we did this, but the reason I picked Funky Kong now is because I believe that I think this summer they plan on being incredibly active, and we've been talking a little bit, and they hit me up for games all the time. One of the Marth players I see that is just really cares about playing the right way, and I think that's really cool. And also has just like a really great local in Prodigy every single week over in Western Mass. Plays with Hen Ghost all the time, and has gone Game 5 with Conflict like 3 different times. So I have full faith that Funky Kong can put it together and make some big runs at some of these bigger tournaments. JP, do not let me down when you listen to this. Please don't let me down. I believe in you. So that's my those are my two picks.
Good pick. I both good picks. So I get to round up my roster here, number 4 and 5. So to reaffirm, I have QWERTY, I have Brams, and I have Sleeper. So I got my Ices ticked off. I got my Fox ticked off. I got QWERTY. I got my Sheik. I got to get some New Hampshire in. That's
Okay.
inevitable, right? I got to have a New Hampshire, right? And I think that the safest New Hampshire pick, I can go with somebody I think is just really solid. A newer transplant to New Hampshire, but somebody I think is a really solid player. Already has some solid New Hampshire wins. Almost beat me the first time we played. Mint.
Yeah.
I'm going with Mint. Mint
Good
is
pick.
my number 4. Got to get Marth on the team, like how you were saying with Funky Kong. I think that Mint has the makings. I think it's just a matter of putting it together. We've said that for a lot of people. I also just love that Mint has very naturally melded into New Hampshire. It's always, again, I was saying this earlier with Moop, it's always weird when you kind of get new people in the fold with a scene. Like New Hampshire is just like the same 6 people have been around forever. You know what I mean? And Mint's a cool guy. He fits in well with the group. He's really solid. He's definitely on that like that step right before you get to like the, you know, Golden, Able, Me, Ember area.
Yeah.
And I think he has the makings to make a solid jump. I think it's more of a matter of attendance. He goes to Fotai pretty often, but he doesn't really travel too much for monthlies. At least in the last year he hasn't. But I think that he can do it. I think if he travels, I think he has the makings of a really solid player. Like I said, he almost beat me the first time we played. He's beaten Golden. He's taken games off pretty much everybody in New Hampshire. So I have a lot of faith in Mint. And my last pick, God, this is always so hard. So the people I'm going to go ahead and name everybody that I have left on my list that I haven't picked.
Okay.
That I haven't picked. So I had Lottie, obviously. I had Duffy. I mentioned Duffy. Deli, who was on my my superlatives list, or I mentioned him during the superlatives. I'm a big Fantastic Deli fan. That leaves me with 3 people. There's 3 people on my list here, and I have to decide who I want out of them. I have one, which is like a deep Nestle pull, like a New England Star League pull, somebody who's active in the lower division of Star League, which is Love Shack. I'm not going to pick him, but I shout out to Love Shack.
From you though, just
What's
to even what a pull for you to even think about. I didn't even think that you would think about Love
Shout
Shack.
out to Love Shack. I met him at SSS. The last SSS, I think, was the first time I met him. Maybe it was the SSS before the last SSS, where I met
awesome.
Love Shack. Super cool dude. Clearly cares about the game. Like instantly was just like super curious and inquisitive. And really solid for somebody who I think it was like his second tournament ever when I met him. And I was like, you're like way better than this being your second tournament. You know what I mean? So shout out to Love Shack. Not going to pick him. And now I got to pick between 2 massers for my last spot. I got 2 mass people.
Okay.
I'm not going to go with Henghost, who was on my list. Not going to go with Henghost because I think Henghost is at a point in their melee journey where it might be hard to make a jump. Already the best player in their sub-region of Mass. Sorry, I'm going really long. I'm making a lot of suspense to my pick here. Shout out to Henghost. Shout out to Henghost, not my pick. My number one of the best people in New England in terms of this. I've known him forever. And similar to how you were saying with Lottie, if I can pick this person for this kind of thing, I know that it's going to happen eventually. And he has high quality wins in the past. He's been playing a really long time. I know that it's going to happen at some point. I have to. It is my duty to pick Ant. I love Ant. I love Ant. I'm such an Ant believer. I always have been. He's beaten me in the past. He's beaten other PR players in the past. For him, it's a journey. He played Luigi for a long time, picked up Samus. He's mentioned to me in the past, or in just the past 6 months, he's interested in maybe playing Fox more often. So he's in a weird place of his melee journey. Definitely a Massachusetts gatekeeper. This dude is the losers quarters and losers semis assassin at NGP. Yes. Like you can bet your bottom dollar he's getting 4th or 5th at NGP like almost every week. He's taken sets off Regex every now and then. I know he's taken some sets off you in the past again. He is just like one of the Massachusetts gatekeepers. And if I can pick him for this, I'm picking him. It's going to happen at some point. He's going to recapture all of that in one season and really frag out and move up the mass ranking. So I have to pick Ant. Shout out to all the other people that were on my list, but Ant, I got to go with you. I love you. You're my pick. Sorry for all the hubbub there. The floor is yours, Gent.
Okay. Yeah, Ant's solid. I think I love Ant too. I really one of these days I wish that he would stop touching grass. Potentially, you know what I mean? Just to see what would happen, because that man is he just touches grass too much. I really hope so, because he can make some waves.
He's cracked.
Okay, so I have my pick locked in. You did not go the way you did not pick the player I really doubt that you would have. So I'm gonna go so out of left field. You're not even gonna you might not even have met this player ever. I seriously doubt you've met this player.
I've never met
I'm gonna go,
Cha-Ching either. You're doing some deep pulls.
that's true. That's true. I'm gonna go with Southern Massachusetts legend. I'm gonna go with Blizz. Okay. Have you ever heard of Blizz?
I've heard of Blizz, never met. No, nothing. I don't
Okay.
even know who Blizz plays. I've heard the tag, but
All
I'm
right.
completely in the dark. Enlighten me. Make the pitch.
Yes, I absolutely will. Yes. Okay, so Blizz has basically been like one of the gatekeepers at One Up for years. I would say since 2021, probably before COVID too, but I wasn't around for that. But at least since 2021, really has been the gatekeeper of Massachusetts and has, I believe, also won a One Up. It's recently. I think it was either last season or season before. Won a One Up, and it was over. I think Alex Future Shock and plays a mix of Sheik, Falco, and Fox, and just always been pretty good. But the reason I'm picking him now is because he recently told me that he is going to start committing to Fox, and that he's just gonna. His Sheik is still really good, but he's just gonna hold off on playing Sheik and Falco for a little bit and just really lock in on Fox. And also, he just recently got Slippy finally after like 5, 6 years of it being released. He finally got it like last week, and we just played a session yesterday actually. And I mean, this guy, he's just he's one of those people that like he's one of the people that like if a top play, like if Cody or Zane or something, if they were like talking about players in their hometown region from when they were getting good, these Blaze would be like one of those players they would mention that like they were just a demon for them in bracket, but like they only play in their hometown. That's what Blizz is, and he's such a beast. And I'm trying to convince him to go to more tournaments, go to like a Mass Madness or something. Potentially, I told him that I might coach him for the Arcadian. You know what I mean? So some of this stuff, I'm just saying, the pieces are moving, and there could be some legitimate bracket demons for that Blizz can make for other people. So Blizz is my last pick, and I hope he does. He's probably gonna listen to this too. I'll send this to him.
I
So
love
yeah,
it.
that's
I
my.
love it. That's like the kind of thing I think that makes Melee awesome is that like you can just have somebody who only goes to one tournament and is just like, if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. That's like one of the things I love about Melee. And that's how you end up in these, white knuckle sets with people you've never heard of. And then you walk around the venue and everyone's like, oh yeah, you never heard of Blizz? Like, duh, of course he's nasty. You know what I mean? I just,
Exactly.
that's the kind of thing I love about Melee. So I love the pick. I look forward hopefully to seeing Blizz actually play. Never been privy to that. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So that's our Stock Risers draft. We'll check in at some point to see what we got wrong, what we got right. Probably the next time the podcast drops, we'll do a little check in on that.
Yeah.
What we want to do next is I basically want to give Gent the floor because Gent, you're tapped in and you are tapped in to everything happening New England. I'm hyper competitive. I am tapped into the competition side of things, but even then, there are things that I don't know because you go to more big tournaments than I do. I had to miss GamerCon this year. There's a lot of stuff that I just haven't quite been around for. So I wanted to give Gent the floor as just like a New England Melee newsroom. It's been a really eventful 6 months in New England Melee. Like this season kicked off with like the G-Town farewell tour, right? That was like the beginning of this season, and everything that's happened since then, it's just a whirlwind. So I don't know how you want to do this. I don't know if you just want to ramble or what, but I want to give you the floor to do your thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of things that have happened this season that I want I want us to just talk about and maybe ramble a little bit and maybe get your thoughts on too, because I know you're not always super active in like the Discord server all the time with some of these discussions. And so I wanted to get your thoughts and maybe some people that are listening that, weren't privy to these things happening. So the first thing I guess on my mind that's happened this season that was like pretty funny was the whole naming 1,000 players thing that became like popular early, like late last year, early this year, when I believe it was Danny SF who named 1,000 players in under 1 hour, which was just absurd. Like across, and that guy, if you don't know, he does stats for like for the entire New England, or not New England, for the entire like Melee community. Basically, gets all the rankings together. He runs the Melee. He's one of the people that runs the Melee stats server. So he's awesome and is always tapped in and was able to name 1,000 players in like 56 minutes. And that's like I don't even know the math on that. That's like 2 players every second or something like that, every other second. It's absurd. And he was able to do it under an hour. No one's broken it, obviously. It's just an absurd record. But then Cody also did it on his stream, and he named 1,000 players, but for him, it took him like 6.5 hours. Okay. And then I believe Zane gave it a try. Zane wasn't able to get to 1,000, and I held it against Zane when he did it because he stopped at like 804, I think, after like 5 hours, and he was like, I'm done. He tapped out. And then just like random players across the Melee community just started doing their own streams and stuff, which was pretty cool. And so I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I think I can name 1,000 players, no problem. Give me like, I think I could do it within 3-4 hours, probably. I mean, and now I started thinking, wait a minute, I do stats for all of New England. I could probably name, like, do I think I can name 1,000 New England Melee players? As I was thinking, I'm like, I know a lot of people. Like, I don't know a lot of the old school players, but I started looking at Bracket, like the website, and I started seeing that since 2021, there have been over 1,000 players that have
Yeah,
played in
you
our
just have to name
tournaments.
every single player that's ever played in the time that you've been playing Melee. That's easy enough. I think this is
Yeah.
more of a lesson in Gent not knowing how many 1,000 is. That's what I'm learning.
Look, in my head, I was like, okay, I can maybe get 600 to 700 of the current, and then maybe I can fill the next 300 with like old school New England Melee players, and maybe just like random pools. I was really convinced that I could do it, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna stream this, okay, and I made a whole thing about it. I posted it in the Discord server. I made a tweet about it, and I ran it. I got, dude, you have to, if you go back and watch the stream, I had like, I brought my whole, I got like fruit with
Dude,
me. I brought like granola bars.
I was gonna say that was the funniest part was like your doomsday prepping and like the beginning of the stream you were like showing everybody like here's all my stuff. Like I was fully expecting you to be like I got a bottle to pee in. Like
No, I didn't have that. But yeah, I had so much. I had like 5 water bottles. I was like, okay, look, I'm gonna, because I watched the Cody stream, not the whole way, but I like I would like get in every like 2 hours or something. I was like, he just looks so tired. So I need to like, find ways to preserve my energy. So I had like cookies and stuff. But but I think the problem, not only now, I realized 2 things. Well, first of all, I had to figure out a strategy, okay? Because I was looking at all these strategies and people were doing it different ways, but I realized, okay, in my opinion, I wanted to find ways to get my brain moving, right? And so I was like, okay, if I just like randomly name players, I feel like I'm gonna get lost quickly, is that's what I suspected would have happened. So I was like, I'm gonna try and compartmentalize the way I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like do it state by state. That was my strategy. So I like started with the weakest states that I knew because my hope was that by the time that I got to like Mass, Connecticut, New Hampshire, I would be able to like my brain would just start moving because I just know all these players. So I want to start with the weaker states like Vermont, Rhode Island, and Maine because I
ouch.
felt like
Shots fired.
well, I just don't know the states as much. And so like 2 to 3 hours in, my hope would have been like if I started Vermont 3 hours in, I would probably not remember them.
Yeah.
So that was my thought. And it was really funny because we got an hour in and I only had 100 players because I had only done Vermont and Rhode Island. And so it seemed like I was
Seemed like
on
a
a
like a
terrible
tap
run.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know. But then I started moving along and I unfortunately I realized 2 things. Number one, I am just not as knowledgeable as I thought I was. Which was really, really disappointing because it's like, because Tori had challenged me on Twitter. She replied to my tweet and she was like, I don't think you'll be able to even get 500 people. And I was like, I can get 500. Come on. In my head, I'm like, that's so easy, you know what I mean? And so I had to do it. I had to keep going until I could beat that. I realized quickly that like 2 to 3 hours in, I was like, I'm not gonna get to 1,000, but I need to beat 500 because I can't have Tori be so happy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I realized I was not as knowledgeable as I thought I was. I should have been a little bit more studied, perhaps,
Yeah,
on some of
500's a
these
big number,
things.
man. 500's a shitload. That's so many. I
It is
could name I don't think I could name more than 250. Um
no way.
I don't
You
know that
can
I
name
could. I really don't know that I could. Of New England people only, I don't know that I could. And I don't think I could do 1,000 melee players, period. I really don't think I could. It's hard, dude. It's hard.
it is
It's
hard.
a
And
big
I
number.
It's a big number. I realized also the second thing was that my strategy was just not it. The thing is, I think what I'd end up doing is I would get to like I would randomly during the stream I would be doing Rodao and I was like okay, and I would start thinking I was like okay, I just randomly would think of Calvar randomly, and I'd be like okay wait I'm gonna hold off on putting Calvar on the list until I get to New
Yeah,
Hampshire,
you can't be
and it
doing
was
that.
just like and it was just like nah like I should have just put David down immediately, you know
Yeah.
what I mean,
Just
just so
gotta
I
let
don't
your
even have to
brain
think
do what
about
it does.
Exactly. That's what I started like watching the SF stream, like the way that he did it. Well, he didn't have a stream, but I looked at his sheet because he made it public. And yeah, he had like runs of like, okay, this is Cali, this is Texas, but like randomly you'd find a Texas player in the like Florida section. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it wasn't very clear. Like he would just let his brain do it, you know? And so I realized I used a lot of energy quickly and I didn't want to quit. And so like 4 hours became 5, became 6, became 7 whole hours of me in front of this screen doing literally nothing but looking at a Google Sheet. And I was also looking at the Melee roster. Those are the 2 screens I had. And unfortunately, I think I only got to 460. So I was so sad because the funniest part was I missed Regex until the last moment, which was really funny. Somehow I had missed Noah somehow. And then people were clowning me in the Twitch chat. But it was a fun moment. I think I was averaging like 25 viewers the whole time, so that was fun and people were enjoying it. I think I want to do it again, but I need to study a little bit more. I think I can get higher. I think I can certainly get 500. If I did it with
I
four,
don't think you can get 1,000, that's for sure.
oh
1,000's too
man,
hard.
maybe.
I think the two of us together could maybe get to 1,000. Because there's a little bit of that
Ooh,
like bridging of time periods and eras. Like I could do
yeah,
some crazy deep pulls. Um, I think maybe we
that
could
could
put
be
our
fun.
brains together and do 1,000, but
That could
that's
be
a
fun.
yeah, that's a whole thing. I always like
Yeah,
these like name 100 women or like name 1,000 male players. I always like those things because you get to see how people's brains work. Of like every time
yeah.
somebody posts their like name 1,000 women, it'll be like you can see the moment where they're like, okay, I'm gonna go into authors now, or like I'm gonna go into musicians now. You know what I mean? I always find it funny. So I thought it was
No,
great that
yeah.
you tried. I thought the picture of you with your head in your hands and it being like 420 deep or something was iconic. That was a great piece of New England imagery. So I loved it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. All right.
what are
So
some
I
other
got
things worth talking about?
yeah. So next, okay. I gotta mention the Regex and Tommy set at CT GamerCon, which we talked a
Okay,
little bit ahead. Oh,
you
yeah.
hinted at this when we were getting ready to record. I have no idea what this is. I didn't go to
Okay.
GamerCon. It's the only big tournament of the period really that I missed completely. I knew that they played, but I know nothing about the set other than the result. So
Yeah. So I want to make
I'm gonna be just seated and listening. I need to know.
okay. So I want to make sure I get this correct. So I'm gonna try my best to go through it slowly. Okay. So basically, they're playing, and I think it was to make winner side top 8, and so there was like winners quarters. And they were on stage. They were playing on stage. Okay. And this set is pretty. It's a pretty good set for. I think it's a pretty good pull for Regex actually because he usually beats Tommy. Funnily enough, I don't know what it is about the matchup, but I think Noah just kind of understands it. Maybe understood it a little better, perhaps. And so would beat Tommy even on Tommy's best days when he would beat David. He was beating Tommy. And so, and it's also a funny set because both these players are so emotionally attached to their sets. Okay. They're both either popping off mid set or they're getting upset mid set. They're just doing both throughout the set, throughout the stock count, whatever's happening. They're both players that are super emotionally attached. Okay. So the set begins, and I think I want to say Tommy goes up. I want to say Noah goes up 1-0, and then it's 1, and then Tommy like evens it up, so it's 1-1. And I believe I want to say it was game 3. Noah wins. And then it's 2-1, so now Tommy is down. Okay. And you have to remember, Tommy is like a top 3 or 4 seed at this tournament. He had just had his sunset run. So, like, if he loses to Regex, this is a big loss, especially because, like, Tommy is trying to make a top 100 push. That's the idea. And so he takes a second and he pulls out his phone to look at his notes. Okay. But I want to be clear what happens here. He doesn't do it on the character select screen. He does it during the results screen. Okay, so the results screen is up. He's lost the game, I believe. He's down 2-1. He's lost the game, but he doesn't press star. He pulls out his phone to look at his notes. Okay, which is a classic Tommy move. He always looks at his notes before the set, but it's rare that he's pulling it up mid set. That doesn't always happen. It's kind of I mean, it's happened, maybe it happened before, but I haven't seen it personally. So it was rare. So it's rare, and I don't think he's ever done it against Noah. So that's one thing that immediately kind of the set basically froze because there was like Tommy had pulled out his phone, and he was looking at it. Okay, and I guess Noah got the what I haven't like fully looked at all the details exactly, but this is what I had heard basically that occurred, which was that at some point, I think Noah like asked him to get off the results screen, and Tommy was like wasn't doing it, I think, and was looking at his phone, looking at his notes. And I believe Noah went over to Tommy and or went over to his controller and pressed start on Tommy's controller. Okay, and then they get off the results screen, and I think Tommy continues to look at his phone, and then I think I want to say Noah gets upset that the set isn't moving along. That he wants to open up a game to to practice to like warm up, right? So he goes to pick Battlefield, and I believe immediately Tommy LRA starts. Like you know how when you pick a stage, you can LRA start and go back to the character select screen, so that like if you pick the wrong stage or something like that. So Noah presses Battlefield to go practice, and then Tommy immediately LRA starts. It's like he had practiced it before. Like no, he would know he knew that like this would happen, and immediately dropped his phone. LRA started, and somehow he did it so fast that they didn't get into the stage. And I think they started arguing a little bit at that point, where like Noah started like being like, "Yo, I want to play. If you're gonna look at your notes, I want to just warm up. You're stalling basically." That was the idea. And I think that they kind of, if you go back and look at the camera at the player cams, you can see that they're kind of like arguing a little bit, and the set isn't moving along. Finally, I guess Tommy stops looking at his notes, and they finally get in game and begin to play game four. Tommy wins game, clutches game four, then wins game five. Has the biggest pop off that I've seen since Sunset. It was pretty big. He like ran off the stage, jumped off the stage, and screamed, I'm number one. I'm the best New England player. Don't you cheer against me." Something like that, because everybody was cheering for Noah. So that's the long and short of it. There might be some details I got incorrect, but that is basically there was two main qualms that like Noah had. One was that Tommy got to look at his notes mid set, and then also that Tommy wouldn't let him practice, and then also other people were saying that Noah shouldn't have gone to his controller and pressed start, and that Tommy should have not. You can't touch someone else's controller. That was the other idea. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. What are your immediate thoughts?
Wow. My immediate thought is generally in this matter, I'm Team Regex. I have always been a fan. I'm not a rule set genie. I don't know what all the rules are. I'm not super knowledgeable on all the rule set stuff. I think looking at notes in between games should be banned. I think you can study up before a set. I think that what he did does constitute to me stalling between games. It's similar to like there was that Wizrobe controversy years ago where he was taking like multiple minutes between games. I think that's whack. I don't think that should be allowed. So I'm Team Regex in that regard. I think getting up and touching somebody else's controller is pretty whack. I think you probably just need to say like, hey, it's time to play the next game, or just call over a TO, right? And say it's been multiple minutes between games. In general, I don't think you should be able to look at notes between games. I think that and then like to win and pop off is kind of brutal for Regex. Like that's tough. You got iced, right? Let's just call it what it is. You were up 2-1. He takes multiple minutes between games. He ices you. He clutches on you, then pops off on you. That's brutal. That's a brutal thing to have to deal with as Regex. I would like to know exactly what the rule set is and what the rule set says about this, because I know mid-set coaching is banned. I think mid-set note consulting should be banned too, especially if it's more than like 30 seconds. Oh, also, I think that if the play is being halted enough to where Regex wanted to keep his hands warm between games, A, that is a sign that it's been going on way too long and needs to stop. And B, you've never, hand warmers in the middle of a set, no, not allowed, never.
Okay.
That's where I stand on that. That's where I stand on that. Again, I have some pretty boomerish takes on stuff like this, but you can't have a hand warmer in the middle of a set, because that tells me you don't get to practice between games, right? I can't just fucking like lab my, ledge dashes in between games. Be like, okay, I'm ready for game 3 now. Like that's bullshit, right? But also the fact that he even had to think about like, I need to keep my hands warm tells me that Tommy was consulting his notes for way too long. And that can't be happening. That's not kosher to me.
Now, I don't know the exact time. I will say one thing about Noah is that he just loves to keep himself warm. He'll warm up before every set. It's just kind of habit for him. So So it's possible that Tommy took too much time. I don't actually know. I don't know the actual facts, but it's also possible that Noah just got a little annoyed that it wasn't moving
Yeah.
along.
Yeah, I would be
And
too.
yeah. The other thing is the rules. I think I'm in agreement with you that mid-set notes, I'd be hesitant to allow them, particularly if they're digital notes, because somebody could text you, right? Who's to say that your coach doesn't text you during that? It's not like we're asking him to show a TO their phone during it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Now, if he had a notebook, maybe I would be more supportive of it. Maybe, I'd still need to think about it, but the digital stuff is especially like I think problematic. I think because it's just no one can stop somebody from texting you notes or whoever. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I didn't even think
yeah.
about that part. That's true. I think that I don't know. I think if we were a, hyper competitive game with like a league and, a real rules committee, which is something that I've been in favor of for a long time, and that all this stuff was a little more, not necessarily more professional, but more strict. I think that if you turn on your phone in the middle of a set, that would just be not allowed, right? Like that's what my gut tells me is that that would
I
just
could
be
see that.
straight up like, no, you can't go on your phone in the middle of a set. You're competing, you're playing. You know what I mean? In my ideal
Yeah.
world, no notes between games, no mid-set coaching, none of that crap. And the fact that it just constitutes stalling. Like I don't think that it's right. I don't think that it's just to ice out a player like that. Um, I don't think
Yeah.
Regex deserves that. I think that's just kind of a bummer to me. Like obviously it's, a cool like hype moment in New England or whatever that like there was this super tightly contested set and ended up having the most like cinematic ending possible of like he consults his notes, he stalls and then he clutches and ends up winning the set and ends up getting third at the tournament, which is huge. But to me, it's just kind of a bummer. I don't know. Like I'm not about it personally. I'm not cool with that. I don't think I don't think it's a good look personally
Mhm.
for the integrity of competition, I guess. That's just
Yeah,
me.
it was. I think, funnily enough, I think Noah went and asked. He went into like Melee Online and had like a poll with like in like expert chat with other strong players, and it seemed like interestingly enough, Nick, most people disagree with you. Most of the strong players were on Tommy's side, which is really interesting to me. I didn't think that a lot, but it was like overwhelming that they were like, yeah, notes during the set is okay, which I thought was interesting. It's an interesting discussion. It hasn't really come up at the highest level, so I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. But if Tommy continues to improve, maybe he can be the spark of a discussion. I don't know. It's an interesting. I haven't thought about it too much, but it's interesting. Yeah.
I
So
mean, I think I
that was
like I like the way that Netplay handles the situation. I like the way that there's a timer between games of like 45 seconds. You can do whatever you want in between those games. I think that's the direction that it would head in my ideal world is just that there's a strict timer of like how long can you wait between games, right? Because I also think like you shouldn't be able to go to the bathroom between games. Like sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick to people with small bladders or whatever, but like you do that before the set. You shouldn't be able to go in the bathroom and take a piss and wash your face and clear your head and take 3 minutes away between game two and game three of a best of three. Like that's to me, that's whack. You know what I mean?
mm,
And the
yeah,
onus is on the player to be prepared for a set. If you consult your notes before the set and you're down 2-1, like that's on you to me. I don't think that you should be able to continue consulting your notes. I think there should be, or even if you can, it should just be limited on time. Right. In the same
yeah,
way, and this maybe proves how much of a boomer or a dick I am about this kind of thing, but like I'll cut people off on their hand warmers too. Like the rules say you get a minute of hand warmers. I'm LRA starting after a minute. Like I'm sorry, it's just I want to get the show on the road. You know what I mean? Like we're competing.
yeah,
I'm not going to say because
yeah,
people will sit there and do hand warmers for 2-3 minutes if you let them. They got to do a million hack stashes on the left, a million hack stashes on the right, and practice my this and my that and my shield drops and my pivot F smashes and everything. And it's like no, you get a minute. Like that, the rules say you get a minute, and I'm going to follow the rules. And I think we need more rules. I think melee needs more rules in general instead of less rules. I won't get too into that. I think that we are in a current state of having not enough rules, and I think that this could be maybe be a good place to start because I think it'd be easy to get people to agree on this kind of thing. Even if
mhm,
you want to be liberal and say you get 90 seconds between each game, like that's more than enough time to do whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't think you
oh
should be
yeah,
able to hand warm between games. That I think we draw the line at that. You can't go into a new game and hand warm or practice tech between games. That's whack to me. So that's where I stand
yeah.
as the resident rules boomer of New England, maybe.
No, I think it's interesting, and I think I agree largely. Okay, so the next big thing of drama that occurred this season was actually, it technically wasn't last season. It was technically this current season that just began. And but you know, it happened before this podcast, so I might as well mention it. And that was what happened at Get Smoked, which is a monthly over in Worcester. It's a newer monthly run by Downey. I love Downey. And it is, for just to give some context, it's a venue that allows indoor smoking, and there is a section that folks can't smoke in. But I mean, for the most part, from what I've been told, I haven't attended these tournaments. For the
Wait,
most part,
I already got to interrupt. There's a monthly at like a hookah bar. Is that what's going on?
I I don't know the actual. I don't know for sure, you know, what you would call it or whatever. But yeah, it's a place where the indoor smoking. It's advertised on the Star GG. Indoor smoking is
It's
okay.
crazy.
And,
A
and
monthly.
so
This
you know,
counts for PR results? That's crazy.
so yeah, so that's where we get a little. Okay, yeah, we'll get to what that is. So for the most part, some players that go to these tournaments, they like Cool Slice has gone to this tournament and he's a high seed, and he'll say like, I don't want, you know, I want to just go and chill. I don't want my results to count for PR. It's very common for players to do that, get smoked. Not everybody does it, but you know, a few players just don't want it because getting a contact high is just like really easy, from what I've been told. So
From what I've been told.
from what I've been told, I haven't been. I can't say. I can't say. I don't know. You know what I mean? So from what I've been told, a contact high is
Damn.
almost like a surefire thing to occur. Anyway,
I
so
think
get
for you,
smoked.
it probably would be again. I think for you, it probably would be a guaranteed thing.
All right, man. So
Sorry, continue.
so okay, there's two things that two parts of this story, both different but related. And I'll start with the first part. Okay, so one of the to give some context, more context, one of the changes that we made this season uh, that I had reached out to Owen about, because Owen's doing the New England PR stuff, and I do I do the data stuff, obviously. So I talked to Owen ahead of time, and I was like, look, I think there's some things we need to change because right now there's some places we can be more transparent. One of the big things was with events that get excluded for people, or results to get excluded. The way that we've done it for a while now, ever since I've been running data, is that if a player wants something excluded, if they're playing, let's just say that it's like, let's say that you randomly decide to play like Mario for a tournament. And I've never seen your Mario. I have no idea what you care about Mario,
My
but you
Mario's
didn't hit me
nice.
up. I'm sure it is nice, but you didn't hit me up ahead of the bracket to tell me that you wanted the Mario to count. Maybe something happened mid-tournament, you wanted to play Mario, whatever the case may be. If it's a new character I've never seen, my rule just across the region was, okay, if I've never seen the character, I'm just going to ask you after the tournament, what's your vibe with this character? And then moving forward, that's what I'm going to do. So if you tell me, hey, I want my Mario results to count, okay, we'll count the event, and going forward, your Mario will count forever, basically, until you tell me not to count it anymore. And this was just the easiest way to do it for me, because because in New England, it's just, again, as someone that looks at all the data across the region, it's very common for people to just fuck around. It happens so much at every single local, at every single level. It's something I can't stop it. And so forcing people to like reach out ahead of time when I was very new to doing the data seemed a little difficult. And so this was just something that we agreed on, G-Town, everybody, like this is just what we were doing. And this was also the case for, well, this was for like random characters. Then we had situations where people wanted to enter with like a random, like they wanted to enter drunk or something, or they wanted to play second, they wanted to just like play but not have it count. Then they'd have to tell me ahead of time. So one of the key examples was Conflict, who would enter as Buzzed Lightyear was his account. It was just him playing Buzz basically at a tournament. He was still playing Falco, but he was buzzed. He was going to tournament buzzed, and I would require him to tell me ahead of time. He doesn't get the chance to tell me after. He'd have to tell me ahead of time, and it worked out pretty well. For the most part, people would do that. And there was some times I gave like I would give players like one freebie basically, but it never really came up. For the most part, people followed the rules, and it was very rare for people to do that anyway. So anyway, going into Get Smoked, okay, this is a tournament that you're probably going to find a lot of these things occurring. Again, it's a tournament you might get a contact high at. You might not want your results to count. You might be just fucking around, and so we were like, okay, we want to be transparent going into the season. So Owen and we made the announcement. It was very clear. You now have to tell us ahead of time. And I felt comfortable asking Owen to do this for us, because now people know that I'm the stats guy. It's like, okay, Gent is the stats guy. He does all the stats. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. It should be no surprise to you that I'm doing this stuff. Okay. So I felt comfortable being like, okay, you're required to tell me ahead of time. And we made it a little lenient by being like, you can tell me, you can tell Owen, you can tell the TO, just tell somebody so we can have some kind of secondary account of what's going to
Yeah.
happen
So
at
what
this event.
happened? Who
Okay.
fucked up? Who fucked up?
So, well, no one actually fucked up. Actually,
Okay.
people followed the rules. So
Good.
what happened was, so people entered this event. There was David that entered this event. Regex entered this event.
Wow.
Cool Sex entered this event. A bunch of players entered this event, but they all didn't want the results to count. They were like, okay, they told me ahead of time, and we asked them to add like a little sponsor tag, like an X that basically indicates that you don't want it to count to the rest of the venue, just so it was very obvious. And people did that, and it was great. It was really cool to see that. The problem was two big issues happened at this event. One, I'll start with the first one, which is regarding Regex. Okay, so Regex enters this event, but he wants to play Marth, but he realizes, okay, I might get a contact high at this event. I might get upset, and so this is why he says he doesn't want the results to count. But he's going to play Marth because he wants to play Marth. Now, he is the 1 seed at this tournament, okay, and he goes through the bracket and ends up winning the event, okay, and gets all the prize money for first place. And Kuro and Abel both basically came out and said after the tournament that they were frustrated that Noah was able to make prize money while basically not there was nobody could do anything to his rank, basically. Like he went to this tournament, he'd either lose and not lose ranking points or win and even though he wouldn't be making ranking points, he could make money basically. And they just felt frustrated. They were like, okay, it's not fair that we can't get anything for beating him in terms of ranking stuff, but he gets to make the money if he does well. So and he was seeded first as well, and he was playing Marth. Like he wasn't playing, Roy or Zelda. He was playing his character. So this is the first issue. So before we get to the second issue, what are your thoughts on this? This idea that you can enter the tournament with your main,
Yeah.
not want it to count, but still be eligible for prize money.
I think that's totally fine. I think prize money is a totally different thing. Like, I get where Abel and Kuro are coming from, of like, he can reap all the benefit, but none of the punishment. But he doesn't reap all the benefit, because if he beats Abel twice to win that tournament, those wins on Abel don't count, right? The prize money and the ranking side of things are completely different. He is foregoing the ranking side of things and saying, if I get good wins, which I'm sure he did if he won the tournament, those wins don't mean anything. Right? The losses that he would have taken also don't mean anything, but the wins don't count for anything. The head-to-head doesn't matter. Like, if let's say he goes to that tournament and beats Calvar twice, he's probably pissed. He leaves with $120 or whatever, but he's probably, like, fuming that he said before the tournament, I don't want this to count, because now 2 David wins at a monthly are gone. You know what I mean? The prize money's totally different. And if you want to get the prize money, just beat him. Like, yeah, your wins on him won't count for PR, but they will count for your wallet. Right? So to me, a player coming into a tournament and saying, I don't want these to count for results, I think that's totally fair game. It sucks for everybody else in the building who really wanted to play that player and get the win, but that's just the nature of Melee, right? Sometimes your bite at the apple gets taken from you. I know some people, and this is not an accusation at all, but I know some people who were really sad at UConn Summit that Tommy didn't play, because it was kind of an unspoken thing that, like, okay, we went to UConn, you know what I mean? We drove down to UConn because we expected Tommy to play, and then he didn't. You know what I mean? And I know some people were kind of bummed about that, which that's just the nature of Melee. Sometimes things don't shake out the way you want them to, right? And it's a bummer that you don't necessarily get the chance to get the ranking points off of Regex in this regard, but it's not that beating him doesn't net you anything. It would get you money, right? You can still take the money from him. You know what I mean? To me, the money and the rankings are just completely different things, and you can win the money whether or not it counts for the rankings. Right? I think that saying this doesn't count for my rankings, therefore I can't take first and take the money for first, that to me is whack. I don't think I can agree with that sentiment. Although I get where they're coming from, I guess. Mm-hmm. But to me, if you're saying the losses don't count, it's just as much of a hindrance that the wins don't count. You know what I mean? That's a fucking bummer. Because if he had gotten some really good wins at that tournament, I don't know who he beat, but they don't count, right? So leave with the money, sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one of the things I had been because this discussion went to like the rest of the TOs in New England. We had all just kind of been discussing it, and just people have different opinions. I think one thing I'll mention is that the person still pays their entry fee. You know what I mean? And so that is an argument. It's like, okay, well, if you're telling them that they can pay into the pot, why can't they make money off the pot? Then just let them enter for free. If you really feel so strongly about Noah not being able to make money, and even though he's playing his main and doesn't want the results to count, then tell him that he can enter for free. then that way, maybe he can't contribute and so he can't make money. But if you're contributing to the pot by paying the entry fee, then like, I don't know, that's the whole point. The question becomes, what is the point of the entry fee? The point is you pay so you can make money if you do well. That's the whole idea. There's no other reason to the entry fee. You could have the whole point of it is to have a prize spot. That's it. The venue fee is different. You pay the venue. The entry fee is purely so that there's a prize spot that you can make money off of. And you can call it gambling, whatever. The point is you pay to make money if you do well. And he paid, so he probably should be able to make that money. So yeah, it was an interesting discussion. This was probably the easier one, I don't know, to handle. It's still kind of been bubbling and people have different opinions. But the second issue was the more interesting one, okay? So this was regarding our very own David Calvar, okay? So David goes to this tournament and he's like, I want to go support Downey and get smoked. We know David. He loves to smoke and play Melee. So he was like, I'm going to go to this tournament. I'm going to play like whatever the fuck. I'll play like Pikachu and like Fox and whatever. I'm not going to play Marth. And you can see me like middle of the pack and whatever. Okay. So tournament begins, and that's what he's doing. In winner's bracket, he's playing like Pikachu, whatever characters, whatever. And then he gets upset or whatever. I forget by whom. And then in loser's bracket, I think my understanding of the story, what happened was there was some discussion happening, and David, I think, didn't know that there was a $300 prize pot that Downey had collected for this tournament, and heard about it right then and there. He heard from his little players, the players.
Oh, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. If this goes the way that I think it did, this is fucked up.
So he hears that there's a prize pool at this tournament. He's like, oh, and my understanding is he made a face. He was like, oh shit, $300. So immediately in loser's bracket, he begins to play Marth.
No,
so
that's fucked up.
He's playing Marth in losers, and not only that, okay, that is egregious, but probably the more egregious one in my opinion. He plays Cool Slice. He plays Cool Slice in losers, right? And Cool Slice asks him because Cool Slice going to this tournament. He's not playing Fox. He tells him he just says I'm going to play whatever to the TO. But he tells David, he sees that David is going Marth at the tournament, like in losers now, and he says to him, let's do a reverse mains. You can play Fox, I'll play Marth. Let's see what happens. And David agrees to it. He's like, fuck it, let's do it. So the set goes on and it gets to game 5. And David switches off Fox and picks
no.
And then Cool Slice, I think, probably stuck to Marth. I'm not exactly sure what he did, but he lost game 5. And by all accounts, he was incredibly upset and frustrated. David then goes on to defeat Kuro and Abel in losers, and then loses to Regex in winners, in grands, where they played Marth Dittos, which was really funny. And yeah, and then they were like he got the money for it, obviously, and Kuro and Abel were incredibly frustrated with him.
Yeah.
Because he was seeded for middle of the pack. And then in losers switch to Marth. And so then the discussion becomes, what do you do when do you DQ him?
Yes.
What is the rule?
Yes. Yeah, he should be DQ'd. Yes. This is a no-brainer to me. Like, Kuro and Abel being upset about the regex thing, I think makes a lot less sense because I think, he's forgoing the rankings but keeping the money. And he said he would play his main, just that the results wouldn't count. Being seated in the middle of the pack and then switching only once you heard there's a pot bonus, that's fucked up. I love David, but you can't do that. Like, that's DQable. He should have been DQ'd the moment he played a set of Marth in losers. That's fucked up. And the fact that he can run through all these players, like, regardless if it counts for the rankings or not, I know the wins and losses still don't count for the rankings, but that is fucked up. Because the regex thing doesn't feel like he's, taking money under dubious grounds, right? He said he was going to play Marth, and whether or not, the situation hinders him enough to make him not win the tournament is just a question mark. Right, David, it's actually dubious circumstances. Saying I'm going to play secondaries and then not, that's fucked up. That is like you are taking money from people at that point because you should not be that far in bracket because his fuck around characters just would not beat those players. It just wouldn't happen. Right, so I think, if Abel and Kuro are really frustrated at that I think they're right to be. I think that's fucked up. I think that's a rare, really big miss by one of our most, experienced seasoned players. I think that is that's not okay. I don't think you can do that. I think that's wrong on a lot of levels. I think that is breaking competitive integrity. I think that's very fucked up.
Yeah, it was fucked up, I think. And it's not, I don't think it's hard to see. I don't know if David ever apologized. I'm not sure. And I don't want to put David on blast here, but it is a little fucked up.
I do. I'm putting David on blast. Fuck that guy. He knows I love him, but you can't be doing that, bro. You can't.
Yeah.
It makes you look bad.
I think It does make you look bad. It makes the region look bad too. Like that's our top two best player, top 100 player. You can't be doing that. It's a little lame. Even at a tournament like Get Smoked. Like it's at any tournament, right? So yeah, that was a debacle at Get Smoked, and it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of the next thing I'll talk about, new piece of news is Massachusetts is in a really good spot. Is going to be in a really good spot moving into the rest of 2026. Obviously we have our great players already. Noah, myself, Ben, Devin, Cool Slice, and Coffee just moved here, which is really cool. But we're getting a big influx of people now going into the rest of 2026. So JJM just moved here, which is a former top 100 player, incredibly good. I had a session with him IRL the other day, and he's just so good. And younger Max, he's moving back in July, which is really big. Former number one in Mass, and I think he was top. I think his highest New England ranking is like fourth or something, like or third maybe,
Fourth.
something around there. Fourth. Incredibly good player. He's moving back in July, and Poon Slayer just moved here from New York, who's an incredibly strong Fox, former New York City PR, and has been beating Ben and Devin. I haven't played him yet. I can't wait to play him, but he's been racking up good wins at NGP. And Russell, I believe currently number 6, I want to say in not Arizona, one of those states, Colorado. Colorado, I want to say number 6. Really good Fox player, came and visited for Mass Madness a couple months ago and did pretty good. Lost to Noah, beat me, did pretty good. And he's coming too in July. So, I mean, that's 4 really, really, that's New England PR capable players, caliber players that are, inching forward into the Mass PR. And that means 4 of our players are going to just be pushed out, which is pretty interesting. I think the state's going to be the strongest it's ever been. And in my opinion, I think we might just win every crew battle for the rest of time. I don't know, man. I don't know.
It depends on how many people the crew battle is. I mean, New Hampshire on this current PR is about to have 4 out of the top 5, and JJM and Russell are really really good. Don't get me wrong, but New Hampshire's still on top, man. You guys can Fugazi add players from all around the world. You can assemble whatever Avengers you want. New Hampshire's still on top until proven otherwise, man. So we're going to like 3 PRs in a row of New Hampshire. Holding down the majority of the top, handful of people. Because I know that Dave and Tori are going to be 1 and 2. I'm 99% sure that I'm going to be number 4, and Ember is going to be 7th at lowest. So that means we're going to have at least 4 of the top 7, I think, on the next PR, and for sure 3 of the top 4. I still think New Hampshire's on top. You guys can bring in as many people as you want, but I think we still got it under control. I think so.
Okay. All right.
I would prefer. I think it would be cooler if the homegrownness of Mass were kept intact. I think part of the reason I think New Hampshire's cool, this isn't just my New Hampshire bias speaking, is that it's just people who have been playing the game forever and we've been friends forever. Like me and Golden and Tori and David, the 4 of us have been playing Melee for a combined 50 plus years. Just the 4 of us combined have probably like 56 or 57 years of Melee tournament experience, just between the 4 of us. Right, so one of the reasons I think New Hampshire's so cool is because it's so homegrown, and it's like we had to struggle through being, shitters, and then being kind of good, and then being, contenders, and now we're running stuff, and I think that's what makes it cool. No diss to Massachusetts. I think it's like you and Noah are prime examples of like homegrown and Max, younger, prime examples of homegrown, Massachusetts people who have just gotten good the old-fashioned way, so to speak, and moved up the ranks in the traditional sense. I'm not a fan of just adding people and then being like, rah, rah, we're the best. It's like, cool. Yeah. Like that's just luck. Like it's nothing about Massachusetts being like this hotbed of Melee growth. It's just, you got lucky and a couple top 100 players moved into town. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just me speaking. That's my strong New Hampshire bias. And even then, I still think that we're goated. I still think that we're on top. And if memory serves, the last time we did a crew battle event, New Hampshire, we won pretty handily. That's my understanding.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you're understanding. Yeah, you were there, bro.
I was. Yeah,
I
was there.
You did win.
Yeah, I think we won comfortably. I think we won like 7-0 or 8-0 or something like that.
We won going away.
All right.
And if I remember correctly, I think Tori almost four-sucked you or something. Oh no, it was Project.
No.
It was Project. It was Project. It was Project.
Yeah. Eric dropped the ball,
the-
and then I smoked Tori.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and again, there's kind of speaking to my point. We assemble this Mass versus New Hampshire crew battle, and you're like, you know who we need? This Fox player who hasn't been active in 5 years. That's who we need because we can't field a team of players who are actually ranked.
Oh come. Okay. Look, at the end of the day, I think you are right. I love homegrown talent. I will say, or homegrown skill, whatever. I do think it's neat. One thing I'm realizing is that New England is just we're in a very unique spot, particularly Massachusetts, to bring in strong players like year by year. I think it's because of like generally, the schools here are just incredible. The job opportunities are incredible. PhD programs all over the place, et cetera, et cetera. It's just like it's no surprise that like randomly, every couple of years we have like people that just come by, and we got a little lucky that those players happen to be great players. One thing I will say that's really cool is that maybe this will get more discussion onto New England. Like now people might be paying more attention to NGP. Randomly now it'll have JJM, Tory, you, Coffee, Reg, like those are Reg X, myself. That's a stacked local just on its own,
Yeah.
and which I think will be cool for New England. Maybe get some more eyes, and hopefully we can kind of like to me, Coffee has become a Massachusetts guy now. Like he goes to all the fests, which is really cool. He's become close with all of us, which is cool. And my hope is that this happens with the rest of them.
Yeah.
Similarly.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this does. I will say, I think New England. I don't think it's really even a question at this point. I think New England is one of the 5 most like involved and dedicated and like what's really the word I'm looking for? I don't want to just say biggest, but New England is one of the biggest Melee communities in North America at this point. In terms of having a bunch of dedicated TOs and tournaments and talent, New England is in one of the best places that any region can be from an infrastructural standpoint, which is great, especially in the post G-Town world. I had my worries. I think everybody did when you lose somebody like that. But New England's in a really good place, and I agree that stuff like this is ultimately good for the region. I just draw the line at being like, oh, Mass is the best now. It's like, yeah, congrats. You know what I mean? Do it for yourselves. You know what I mean? And even then, let's see us in a crew battle. I think I still like our odds. We're still pretty nasty.
You are.
I will jump in. I will jump
Yeah,
in again and say this last thing that we were going to do, I think we should cut it. And I think we should save it for another podcast because we're going on. This podcast is about to be like 3.5 hours long. This is like, we're going deep. And I think that we should just say our goodbyes because we could go all night if we wanted to.
We could.
So I want to give you the floor to say any last things that are still on your mind. I don't want to rush this ending, but please.
No, yeah. I just wanted to say, well, yeah, a couple things is going into the summer. Man, New England summer is gonna be beast. There's so many things going on. I wish that y'all could see the secret TO calendar because it is absurd. There's so much stuff happening, and I'll just say, I hope this comes up before Saturday. It's really up to when Nick has the time to put it all together. But at least this Saturday from the
it'll be out before Saturday. We're recording this on Wednesday.
Good.
It'll be ready for probably tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday.
Okay, good. So this Saturday is Mass Madness, which should be pretty big. I believe Coffee is going to this. I want to say we have Kevbot randomly going to this. He's just visiting, and I'm sure David will go and Tori. So it'll be the first Mass Madness of the spring summer, I suppose, which should be pretty cool. And in terms of the actual summer, we have Vacation Land, which is in 2 weeks, and that is going to be pretty cool too, up in Maine. Go attend that. I'm going. Nick, are you going to that? I don't know if you're
no, I don't think so. Probably not.
Okay. Yeah. So the Vacation Land's a great tournament. I didn't get to go the first time, but it's pretty cool. And then probably our premier summer tournament to be is Melee at the Elm, which is pretty neat. They've turned their monthly into this like annual event, I guess, that they want to run. It's going to be a 2-day event, and they're bringing out like Rat Monster and like Zamu. It's going to be stacked. So definitely sign up for that. I think the fees are going up, so go sign up for that. And outside of that, there's just so many storylines. Again, so many players moving here, all the players grinding, people trying to make top 100 runs. It's looking good for New England. It's going to be a great New England summer. and I hope people enjoyed this podcast. We hadn't done one in a while, and so it was kind of neat to go over a bunch of stuff. And I know people are fiending for content. That's what I've heard. That's what I've seen from y'all. So if you want more, please don't hesitate to show support in the comments. Send this over, share it. I don't mean to be the YouTube person or whatever, but
No, it's true.
share it. Like, subscribe.
I will say, me and Gent talk a lot about how we want this podcast to be, and Gent and I have some minor disagreements in how we want this to operate. And I've always been on the side of less is more with regard to frequency. I think part of what makes this podcast fun and special is that we do it just every now and then. And we can bring you 3.5-hour podcasts where we still had some stuff that we might have wanted to talk about, but we decided to save it for next time. I just never want to be in the position of really hurting for things to talk about. I think monthly updates is just a little too frequent. So I just hope you guys enjoy. But again, like Gent said, if the prevailing narrative is that people just want more and want more frequency, then that could be arranged. I will also say on a personal note, summer is always a little weak for me because the weather gets nice and there's stuff that I would rather be doing than playing Melee. I split my time between multiple interests. Gent, you were mentioning during the PR, the ballot part, that my ranking tends to fluctuate, where in the winter I'm really high and then in the summer I fall down a bit, and so on and so on. So I probably won't be at as many tournaments in the coming 6 months as I was in the past. That's also the reason, for full transparency, that the last New England Melee podcast at the end of last summer season was with Groggy instead of myself, was because I just wasn't tapped in. The summer is always tougher for me, not only with competing, but I also just am less plugged into everything that's been going on. And the last thing I want is to, force myself to record this podcast and not really have any skin in the game or not really know exactly what I'm talking about. I want to be as prepared as I possibly can be, as much of a vibes-based podcaster as I am. So, going forward this summer, I'm hoping to see as many people at tournaments as I can, but it's definitely going to be lower attendance for me going forward. And if the next New England Melee podcast is, if I'm not here and somebody else is, that's the case. That's the reason why. It's not because I don't care. It's not because, I'm too busy. It's because I want this podcast to be as good as it can be. And if there's somebody else that I think can do this job better than me, for whatever reason, I want them to be in this spot. I love doing this with you, Gent, but I want the quality of the content comes first. So that's just a personal note for me with the summer coming up. Hopefully we'll see you guys at tournaments soon. Any last words here, Gent, before we close this?
No. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. Please show some love to Nick, and I think we try our best to put our best foot forward with this podcast, and I hope you all appreciate it and enjoy it as much as we do. So yeah, we'll see you out there at the locals.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this has been the New England Melee Podcast. Have yourselves a lovely week, month, ranking period, however long it may be. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye, y'all.